We're live, man. What's going on?
Nothing, brother. So I had someone comment, and I also had a family member text me. They're like, "Why are you always wearing that stupid fucking orange jacket?" It's because I keep this room cold because even though this is a brand new MacBook, it still overheats when I'm screen recording. So I got to keep shit cold. I got little fans attached to it, but I got to keep it cold. And I keep the fan on, so it's just constantly just circulating air and just sucking, just heat transfer. So I gotta wear something. And so for a couple episodes, I put on like a nice like polo jacket, and it looks good, but it's so like formal, and it's just like I don't care that it looks like I wanted it to like look better, but like I was wearing it and I was like I wasn't totally like relaxed for the conversation. I was like, like we were just talking. I was like shifting it. I was like, it's getting tucked in. So finally I was like, you know what? I was like, this thing it's big. It's like triple XL. It's baggy as shit. It's cozy. I can whip it on and off. Like, and I'm like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm wearing it. I don't give a shit that it's high vis orange. If someone wants to buy me the same exact one in a different color, go ahead. But until I realized, I was like, I don't give a fuck. No one's watching this. No one's watching this no one's watching this. They're listening to it. So, yeah, man. So last time I had a splitting headache and the screen was blinding me, but that was 40 episodes ago, and I would like to think that I am weathered now. I figured out. Yeah, I purposely like don't drink water before the podcast, so I'm not pissing every 30 minutes like I normally do. But I work out before it, so I have to like worry not to get dehydrated. I'm slowly getting it down to a science. I've got the microphone. I've got a better backdrop. I think I've got it figured out. Probably don't. I'm sure.
Look, man, 40 episodes since we talked, man. That's incredible. Like, dude, you are growing, like you're learning. Woo. I look, man, I totally respect your craft. I watched a few of the episodes and I was like, man, this is like such an awesome podcast.
Thanks, man. Whether you mean it or not, I appreciate the ego stroking. All right. So you, we got on last time. Let's just jump to it. So you are, in layman's terms, you're creating Skynet, but that's throwing some shade. That's throwing some undeserved shade. So the reality is you're, among other things, you are building robots that can be controlled by your brain waves. And you, like myself, got into medical school and realized that wasn't for you. And so, like me, we are both going out and chasing what we truly love. And, in the back of our minds, it's like, what the fuck am I doing? I could be a doctor. But you're building telepathic robots, and I'm making a podcast with a high-vis orange jacket. We'll get the last laugh one day. So, bro, tell me what's up. And I got a notebook. I write down my thoughts now. I'm slowly getting better at not interrupting people. I've been listening to my episodes, and I've been like, who's that asshole that keeps interrupting? And I'm like, oh, God, it's me. I'm like, oh, these guests are so interesting. I had a guy talking about nuclear fusion, and I was like, and I kept cutting, and I was like, I can't listen to this. So today is a growing episode where I'm going to try not to interrupt.
Oh, dude, see, look, I have the same problem, especially like when I'm talking to people and I get really excited because then I'm like, oh my God, I have like 80 things I want to ask at once. And I'm like, and on top of that, like, so especially down here in the South, I tend to talk with a faster cadence than most Southerners. Yeah. So it's like an awkward timing thing where it's like, oh gosh, I want to ask like 30 things, but I keep on cutting people off. So dude, no, I can totally relate.
Yeah. So, yeah, man, when I lived in Maine, my junior year of high school for a year, I went from, I always thought I talked fast because I'm from New England and people just talk faster in the North. It's almost like it's like cold. It's like an evolutionary trait where it's like get the message out faster because we got to keep moving. We got to keep our body temperatures up. In the South, it's you got that long draw, buddy. What are you doing today, Aaron? You making robots? Yeah, I'm making robots and like. So when I lived in Maine, they were like, "You talk slowly," and I was like, "I talk slowly," and I was like, oh, "This is heaven." So yeah. So what's
actually,
up?
so when I was in school the first time, my roommate was from a small town in South Carolina, and he had like one of these deep Southern voices, and he talked really slow like this. And as he talks, you're like, dude, get to the fucking point already. He was sitting there like, yo, man, I gotta go. Like, I got class.
Shit to do.
Tell me what you need to tell me.
Yeah, man, this is really interesting. Now, have you ever? It's like, have you ever listened to lectures on YouTube and you got to turn it up like 1.5 speed?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was trying to listen to one on some like theoretical like propulsion system using like magnets or something. I don't know what the fuck it was, but I just remember the lecture because I stopped listening to it to try to listen to it to learn, and it's now one of my go-to sleep videos. I have a playlist on YouTube for shit that puts me to sleep, and that's one of them, because he's like, and the superconducting magnet, when put in liquid helium, it's, if you look at the bar graph, and I'm just like, so now, I mean, I don't know, man, maybe that was some like subtle like salesmanship, because I've listened to the episode like 100 times now. But yeah, dude, so what's going on with the robots? What's the fuck's going on with your life, man, aside from coronavirus?
Oh, yeah. Well, coronavirus is bringing everything to a screeching halt. Prior to that, so we actually started demoing the robots for a lot of the STEM-themed nonprofits in the area, which it's kind of, we're getting a 2-for-1 in that, we really like working with students, and we really want to inspire them to pick up careers in science and engineering. And I don't think there's any better way than saying, yo, drive a robot with your brain. Oh my God, how does this work? Science.
Yeah.
Oh shit, bam. And like, kids are interested.
Yeah.
But another thing too, as we were doing our market analysis and our study, and we're trying to, because since we're a business, we have to be able to show like, hey, we can make a profit. And one thing that we realized is that, so nonprofit organizations by definition have to spend 80% of their revenue on organizations and programs that accomplish the mission of the nonprofit. So with a STEM-themed nonprofit, they have to pay money to bring in STEM specialists. And guess what we are? So yeah, man. And we actually, so you know where Greenville, South Carolina is, right? Yeah, so we actually worked with a nonprofit in Greenville a few weeks ago before the coronavirus really kicked up. And when we came in, we were there for maybe an hour and a half, 2 hours. We worked with 2 groups. We separated boys from girls. Everybody did the robotics activity. And since we came there, that's all those kids can talk about. They're like, yo, when are the robot guys coming back? When are they coming back? And we're like, yes.
Yes.
But not just from a financial standpoint, but from here you have this group of students. A lot of them come from lower income, lower socioeconomic backgrounds, and you're showing them things that previously only kids who were in, high achieving, like, we used to have, it wasn't called Galactic growing up. It was the program that all the smart kids went to. I forgot what it was called because I obviously wasn't in it. And so, like, yeah, those kids will see the really cool STEM stuff, but we want to bring that to everybody else because we think that there's so much value for all students, especially, we just got off the phone with somebody. We were doing a mini sales pitch, and we said, hey, when you take kids who've grown up in harder situations, those kids they grow up to be incredible scientists and engineers because they have to problem solve just to survive or just to get by because their life is harder. Yeah. And so if you take that ability and apply it to some of the things that we're seeing now, it's the potential's endless. And so that's a market that we're really looking to target as an organization.
Yeah, man, and you're right. It's I don't remember. There was a different name for it, but yeah, I had friends that were in those like really smart schools before high school. Yeah. The rest of us were in the dumb feeder schools, but yeah, I can't remember the names of them clearly because I was not in them either. It's they were but yeah, you're right. It's you know, it's stuff like that is normally reserved for, yeah, it either like very like upper crust private schools, or even just like, you know, those extra programs like parents can pay for to put their kids in to get them ahead. There's nothing wrong with those. Hey, I'm all for spending money on education, like, you know, and I'm, hey, free market, go for it. But yeah, it kind of sucks for those kids where it's like, shit, man. Yeah, a lot of them, you know, it's like right now with the coronavirus, a lot of kids, like there's like a large percentage of students in the United States in 8th grade or below right now who are having problems above everyone else because they're homeless.
Right.
And
or
like
they don't have an internet connection.
Yeah.
Like,
they can't do that. Or it's like, you know, it's, you know, they can't eat they're not at school, so they don't have the cafeteria program. And it's not like, well, mom and dad work. It's like mom and dad aren't around. There is no mom and dad. It's Guy and his little sister. And it's like, so when they're trying to just tackle those problems that none of us have to, that I don't have to deal with, no one I know has to deal with. I'm blessed that I haven't been confronted with something that terrifying. The last thing that they have on their mind is like, hey, can we play with the robots with our mind? Like, you know, it's, dude, they're just trying to get back to school just so they can, you know, get their routine normal, relatively normal. It's, yeah, man. So it's definitely dope as shit what you're doing, man. It's, yeah, because they're the last kids that would ever, those are the kids where it's like, it's, you know, it's like, I hope they get to class, you know, I hope they don't miss more than 2 days a week of school or something, you know, something insane like that. But yeah, and you're right, it's when you can tap into those kids, those are the ones that they take it and run with it.
Right. Yeah, and then too, so you might be similar to me in this aspect, but I'm not trying to toot my own horn and say I'm the smartest dude, but people, all my life, when people have met me, you can tell that I'm a relatively, I possess at least average intelligence.
Yeah. Hey, you can't be stupid to get into med school. We can toot our own horns with that. You can be dumb socially, which we probably are.
Oh yeah. I'm terrible socially.
I don't think it's you know, it's, yeah. I would toot my own horn and say, yeah, there's a baseline intelligence, and I'd also be real and say that I was probably the dumbest kid out of the class that got accepted to the med school I got to Miami. All those kids were Ivy League. They're brilliant. No, I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
So, but with that, there is an aspect of self-fulfilling prophecy. So because I look smart or sound smart or whatever, people tell me that I'm smart. And so when you hear that enough in your life, you eventually think, oh crap, I might actually know a thing or two.
Yeah.
And then now take that and apply it to the other side of the equation, where you have students who, again, if they don't come from much, they're constantly being told, whether explicitly or implicitly, hey, you ain't shit, you ain't never gonna be shit.
Yeah.
And so because of that, like, that's a mentality that builds up, and it becomes this self-fulfilling prophecy. And so one thing that my company is really interested in doing is actually coming in and telling those kids, no. Oh yeah, right. I can cuss on this one. Yes, yeah, I love this podcast.
Want, dude.
Yeah. No, fuck that. You are somebody. Yeah. Like, you can be awesome. Here's some tools that we've used to be awesome. We're going to teach you everything that we know, and hopefully, even if you don't go off to be an engineer, you never go off to build robots, just knowing that you had that ability and the possibility for those things is out there, I think it's a way to help break that cycle of just negative self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, dude, I would agree with that 1,000,000%. Dude, I was never a good student. I was a good student until like 3rd grade, but I think everyone is. And then I wasn't until like my sophomore year of college. I'll show you some pictures. I was a legitimate like meathead. I looked like a tank. Dude, my brothers were all smart as shit, and I was just like, I'm not smart. But it got to a point where I started to believe I wasn't smart. And then when I finally decided my sophomore year of college, living in a frat house, I was like, I want to get into med school. Like the first year, the hardest part wasn't even like studying and learning to study. It was just like, you know, people, not even like maliciously, but just kind of like matter of fact, be like, you got to be pretty smart to get into med school, man. I'm not sure if you can do that. And, some other people, a little more venomous, like, you can't do that, dude. You're a fucking idiot. And like, but yeah, it literally took me like a year or two where it's like the hardest part wasn't even getting the classes done. It was just like slowly realizing, okay, I'm breaking the curve in all these classes. It wasn't until like my senior year of college that I finally told myself, I was like, you're smart, motherfucker. Like, don't rest on those laurels. Don't let it go to your head. Don't be cocky. Like, you're not the smartest motherfucker, so don't think that you're something special. But it was just like, it wasn't so much that I was telling myself like I'm smarter than people, so much as I was telling myself I'm not dumb. And that changed everything, man. That mindset. That, it's like I've had friends who've like lost a ton of weight, and I've asked them to be like, dude, what's it like? Like, how many more chicks are talking to you? And they're like, dude, I realized it had nothing to do with the weight, but it had to do with my mind. It wasn't even losing the weight. They're like, because I'm still fluffy. They're like, it was the mindset that I now felt less fat. Like, I carried myself differently. I stood up straight. Even if I still had a belly, they're like, in my mind, I had a third of the belly I used to have, so I acted like I had a six pack. And they're like, and that's half of it, man. It's just like that sort of swagger you have to get. And on the other end, if you're told you're stupid, it's like, what did Einstein say? If a fish is told it's stupid, it can't fly. Or if intelligence is based on how well you can fly, a fish is going to live its whole life thinking it's stupid.
Right, yeah.
You got to convince yourself. And but if you're a kid, you don't have that life experience that, like, I'm now 29. I have enough experience that I can be like, all right, mindset really does affect things. If you're just in 5th grade and you're from an underprivileged family and you're just trying to get through life and you're already being told you're stupid, well, that might make you go, it's not like it's some hex where it's like you become dumber and your brain cells atrophy. But if you think you're stupid, you're probably going to try less, because what's the point?
Exactly.
And then you lose your love for education. If anything, you're probably going to grow bitter towards it. It's, you got to tell them, yeah, fuck that. You're smart as shit. And if you're not, you get there.
Yeah. And that's, so one thing that we as an organization strive to do is we just say, like, hey, yeah, part of it is we're smart, but then part of it is we're very open about the fact that we struggle in school. I failed just going back for engineering. I think I've failed 3 classes so far. I fail a test every semester like clockwork. I fail so much it doesn't even bother me anymore. But it's just knowing that it's not about being successful on the first try. It's about being willing to go through the process to be successful. And so it's so interesting because, yes, we have this fun, cool, quirky, like, yeah, it's awesome, you're like a Jedi, but at the same time, we're dropping some serious life lessons on these kids. And I think that gives us a value as an organization that we're not seeing in the market, especially in our area, because again, if you think about it, I'm in the upstate of South Carolina. I'm sure there might be 6 more companies like ours that are out in Silicon Valley or something, but where I am, it's kind of a tech desert. I mean, there are manufacturing plants, but you culturally speaking, the market's wide open for us. And so we're really excited to be able to address a need that has been around for such a long time, and we actually have the tools to do it properly, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, and for anyone listening that just, rolling their eyes, because it's, anyone older than us, probably you're going to roll your eyes, because it's always hard to take advice seriously from someone younger than you. You're just like, yeah, dude, what do you know? So it's like,
kids.
Dumbass motherfuckers.
Get off my lawn.
Yeah, get off my lawn. But it's like, so like, don't take it from Aaron and I, like saying like, you can do this. We got into med school, sure. My podcast, number 50, Dale Comstock, Delta Force, PhD. Dude, and so this isn't, you always hear people saying like, you got to visualize it before you achieve it. And it's like, all right, you tree hugging hippie, like, give me some energy crystals and essential oils, whatever.
Yeah.
But when you hear Dale Comstock talking about visualization, whether it be as a kid playing baseball or as the 23, I think the youngest ever person to be in Delta Force by 23, that is the tippy top. That's who the president calls when he says, I need someone dead. All right,
Yeah.
they're the guys that
That's pretty impressive.
yeah, they're above SEAL Team 6, right? They are the fucking James Bonds. He told himself when he was not in Delta Force, he was like, I'm going to get in. And, you know, aside from just breaking his balls every day training, he said that the biggest thing was he used to visualize it, and he'd tell himself, he'd be like, you are stronger than these people. He's like, even if I didn't believe it, I would just tell myself, you are stronger than these people. You are smarter than these people. And he ended up finishing like number one in his class in terms of like gun. I think they have like a Top Gun award. It's who's like the best shot. But dude, he went on and did spec ops for them and the CIA. Got his PhD, has a master's, runs several businesses, and he's the most, you know, if you look at him, you know, bald mustache, like this guy is a just killer. But if you listen to him talk, he's not some, you know, you got to visualize it and tell yourself, and he says it. He's like, you have to tell yourself that you can do this stuff. He's like, if you tell yourself you're dumb, you're gonna be dumb. He's like, if you tell yourself you can't do this, or I'm not meant for this, or no smarter kids do this, he's like, that will happen. But here's this guy that it's like, Dale's in his 50s, and he is, again, not some like wide-eyed kids like you and I. He is, I mean, a Delta Force veteran, a fucking killer, all right? And here's this guy telling you, you know, hard as fuck, but here's him saying, like, no, you got to visualize success. You got to tell yourself, you got to believe in yourself. And so for, people older than you and I that aren't listening, go listen to podcast number 50 with Dale Comstock. If that doesn't fucking change your mind about some shit, because it's like, oh, here's this guy. If you closed your eyes and listened to that podcast and didn't know he's Delta Force, you would have thought you were talking to some like spiritual guru. He's just talking about like the energies and frequencies of life and believing in yourself and self-fulfilling prophecies. And it's like, it's so awesome hearing it from him, because someone like that, you almost would kind of expect them to be like, get that bullshit out of your head. Like, you fucking hippie, like, work harder. But here's him, the top rung of fucking like killers, going like, no, you got to believe in yourself. You got to visualize it. You got to put yourself in this situation. You got to feel the energy. And it's just like, so now I embrace it so much more, because I'm like, hey, don't make fun of me. You got a problem, you take it up with Dale Comstock. Like, and he says, and he's like, and for those of you that don't believe in it, he's like, cool, keep living your life, you know, and look from the outside in at the people who are successful. So yeah, man, don't listen to Aaron and I being like, you got to believe in yourself and tell yourself smart. Listen to that fucking Delta Force spec ops, you know, literally like, yes sir, Mr. President, pull the trigger. Like, used to watch Noriega through a sniper scope. Yeah, man, dude, one of his friends is the guy that pulled Saddam from the hole. Dude, this guy is like, no bullshit. This guy's Sam Fisher. Like Splinter Cell. No, yeah, dude, no bullshit.
Where do you find these people, dude? Like, what the fuck?
With Dale, I saw an interview with him from like 5 years ago, and I looked up his name, and I was just like, Delta. I was like, man, that's pretty badass. And I found him online. I found his email. I was like, fuck it, I'll shoot him an email. Got back to me like 6 hours later and was like, yeah, I'd be delighted to. He's been on 3 times now. He's coming on again Wednesday. He's awesome. But yeah, dude, he could be a Joe Rogan guest. Like, yeah. Point being, getting back to robots, so it isn't bullshit. There is incredible important, and whether it's teaching them life lessons through robots, or whether it's Dale teaching you life lessons through, you know, becoming an elite soldier, it is true. And it is, you don't get to that level of success by not believing in yourself. And so it's not some woo-woo hippie bullshit. You got to bust your balls. That doesn't mean saying, I am smart and I'm going to go ace this test. No. That doesn't work.
No, it doesn't. I've tried.
Yeah, I've tried too. But if you just, at the same time, if you study your ass off for a test, but you just keep telling yourself, I'm a fucking dumb shit, I'm going to fail this. Dude, you're going to fucking fail it. You gotta, dude. You gotta, it's like when you see like a dime at the bar, you gotta walk up to her and you gotta believe that you are Derek Jeter. All right, whether or not you are, you gotta walk like you are Derek Jeter, and that you've got a matte black Lambo outside with diamond encrusted steering wheel. Even if it's just your mom picking you up, you gotta believe that is the Lambo. Yeah. I'm going way off on a tangent, but yeah.
No, man, it's good. And what you said made me think of something. I was actually talking to my wife about this yesterday, but there are certain themes that no matter what, they are universal to all humanity. So there are themes that repeat throughout time. And that's one of them. It's because I've sat down and thought about it because, like you, I and like a lot of people, I have an inherent desire to, change the world and to be successful. And I'm like, okay, well, everybody wants to be successful. Well, why isn't everybody successful? And part of it is just dumb luck. Like, you have to be in the right place at the right time. Yeah. And every successful person who's truly humble, they recognize that and they'll say that up front. But then another thing too is, like you said, it's being able to visualize that success when nobody else, nobody around you can see it. Like, we praise visionaries like when it's all said and done, but during the process we call them crazy. And so and then of course too, there's that element of you just gotta bust your balls or your ovaries if we're being friendly, gender neutral or gender inclusive. That's the word. But you just gotta be willing to work. And I think a lot of times, like, people have a desire to be successful, and I would even argue that most people are willing to do the work, but there are other aspects to it. It's the way you see it before nobody else will, and again, just dumb luck that differentiate aspirations from reality.
Yeah, with luck, I would say that ask any truly successful person, they'll tell you they're like why do they call it a big break? It's because you broke you broke through the facade of the universe. Like, the right thing lined up and so they never say like when I made it, it's when I broke through. So it is dumb luck. But there's an awesome quote I saw, and it said there's no such thing as luck. Luck is when hard work and persistent preparation meets opportunity. I've seen that. So it's like, if you every day buy a lottery ticket, every day you make sure you're always getting a different number and you finally win, that is luck. But if you made sure you were studying averages and statistics and you said, if I buy a ticket every day for 55 years and never miss, that's maybe not a good example. It'd be like if you trained your ass off and just someone noticed you, right? It'd be like if I got on a plane and I was talking about my podcast and I got into med school but decided not to, and it just so happens to be a guy that's like, hey man, well, like, my brother-in-law is Elon Musk, like he'd love your story. Sure, that would blow my podcast up. I wouldn't have earned that. But at the same time, if I wasn't sitting there and having hustled for the last 6 years after hustling, having to get into med school, and had this whole story and wake of hard work and things to show for it, that wouldn't have meant anything. It probably wouldn't have talked to the guy. And if I did, it would have been like, my brother's Elon Musk. Oh, that's so cool. Can I talk to him? He'd probably be like, no, he's too busy. But if I'm, chatting this guy up and here's this thing that's thousands of hours have put into this, that is what luck is. Like, I guess true luck would be like if, for whatever reason, Elon Musk just walked in here and just said, let me do an episode. Yeah, that's dumb luck. But for the most part, luck it's the big break is, if the unicorn jumps up in front of you in the forest, that's luck. But if you don't have your gun to kill it and mount it and show everyone, it doesn't fucking mean anything. True. So you have to be an expert marksman for the time you see the unicorn, right? So it's, exactly. Don't kill a unicorn.
I'm gonna remember that. That's good as hell, man.
Yeah, that was good. I'll quote myself. Yeah. But seriously, that's what luck is. Is it everything lines up? But dude, if you don't have the thing to thread the needle of all of them, it doesn't matter if they line up, right?
Right.
But you have another thing you said. Visionary, you have to see it when no one else can, and not only that, when other people are actively telling you it can't be done. Space Barons, a book, I don't know the name of the author, but it's by Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and Richard Branson. But dude, it's easy in hindsight, like you said, visionaries, it's easy in hindsight to be like, well, Musk is a genius. Dude, if you listen to the history of SpaceX, the entire time it was like, what is this asshole doing? Like, what are you doing? You're trying to break into this $100 billion market that's owned by defense contractors who have been buddy-buddy with the Pentagon since World War I. You listen to the whole thing and the failures and the just again and again and again and again. And then you get to where you are now in 2020 and you go, well, yeah, of course Elon saw it. Look at him now. But it's like, for the vast majority of the time that SpaceX existed, there wasn't a now to look back on. It was just, who's this site? It's like, there's a Joe Rogan quote. It's madness and genius are next door neighbors and they borrow each other's sugar. Mm-hmm. Like, or another is like, until it works, genius is madness.
Yep.
Up until the moment it works, what are you doing, you fucking psycho? You know? Yeah. You know? You're what? You're building telepathic robots? You're what? You're trying to make a podcast? What? You two dipshits. Up until it works. And then
it works, and it's like, yeah, of course they were geniuses. Like,
he's a hardworking guy. Got him med school. Of course it makes sense. But it's like, up until then, it's just like, who's this dipshit in a construction jacket? Like, you know, who's this guy who's like, yeah, we're building telepathic robots and we're going into inner city schools. Hear me out. Like, you know, I don't know.
Yeah, actually, so every summer when I go to NASA, there's a talk by this engineer. His name is Walt Silva. Amazing talk that he gives. And he talks about how basically he came up on a problem. He's an aerospace engineer by trade. He said, hey, I need to go back and get a PhD. And I think it was like statistics or something to figure it out. People were like, okay, but what are you doing? Why are you doing a statistics PhD? You're an aerospace engineer, blah, 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 blah. He caught a lot of shit from it, including from his branch and his boss and all that. Goes off, gets the PhD, works at the problem, comes up with this entirely new novel method, and now it's like the industry standard for fixing those types of problems. And he talks about kind of, again, everybody saying, what are you doing, until it actually worked. And at the end of his talk, because he gives it every year, there were quotes. He always shows the same quotes about how people said, at some point, I think the director of Warner Brothers said, well, why would you want to watch a movie with sound? Another person said, like, well, why would you want the automobile? The horse is going to be here forever.
Yeah.
There was another quote about like how planes were stupid and they weren't going to be useful for anything. And so now, that being said, there is a healthy balance. Like at some point, if you're setting off to do something new, you have to know when to punch out and pull the ejection lever, because it is really that bad.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, you're going to run into a lot of issues where people are just, because it hasn't been done before, it can't be conceptualized. So people are like, I don't know. I mean, think about the moon landings. Like, there was now we all know what can happen. We got pictures and videos and fucking Aaron Shepard hitting golf balls off the moon.
Yeah.
But there was a period in time where people were like, I don't think you can do that, dog.
Dude, yeah. New York Times made fun of Robert Goddard because they said he wants to launch rockets into space. Doesn't he know that you can't operate rockets in a vacuum? Robert Goddard, the head of rocketry, or the father of rocketry.
So yeah, and I wish that there were more resources out there, or there was a class, but you can't put this all in a class of saying, okay, if you want to innovate, if you want to do something new, because we all want to change the world, but the people that do it are so few and far in between for a reason. It is a long and lonely process, and I'm not like, fuck it, it's my company. I can say it. Yeah, that's one thing that we're trying to inspire, is we want people to think, holy fuck, I can actually change the world.
Yeah. Yeah. What did Steve Jobs say, man? Sorry, I interrupted you. Go.
No worries. I'm listening.
Yeah, Steve Jobs quote: "Those who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are often the ones that do."
Right.
You got to be unhinged, man. Healthy unhinged.
Yes, healthy unhinged and again, it's all within a reason. Like, okay, I didn't see this 3 years ago. I was just some dude dicking around in his apartment, and I was like, hey, I can drive a robot with my brain. That's awesome. And now it's developing into this platform where you can inspire kids, and people are really responsive to it. And at the time, I wasn't thinking about that. I was just like, I really like this thing. It's new. It's exciting. I haven't seen too many people do it before. And at the same time, like, oh, actually, this just came up. We pitched for a pitch competition at my university, and so half of the judges were like, oh my God, this is awesome. And the other half of the judges were like, I don't get this. This is stupid. So we like leveled out, didn't place. We're like, what the hell? But that's part of the process, is you're going to run into people who don't see it the way you see it, and who will never see it until it's fully developed. And then once it's fully developed, if it's a good thing, everybody will say, oh yeah, this is awesome. It's same with like Bitcoin. I remember like hearing about Bitcoin way back in 2010 and being like, okay, I was like, I don't know about that. That seems kind of weird. But then, fast forward 5-6 years later, and everybody's like, Bitcoin, it's awesome, it's awesome. And it's like, but people didn't realize Bitcoin was awesome until it made a lot of money. But before that, it was just some weird thing where it's like, you're talking about the hash and all this other stuff, and I don't get it. And so, yeah, part of that process that we try to instill, one of our inherent values as a company is teaching, especially these younger students who aren't going to hear it from too many other places, like, yo, this is a marathon, not a sprint. If you really want to be successful, it's going to be a long road, and you're going to be by yourself, and you're going to have critics left and right. And you have to learn how to listen to the criticism, but then, and take the good parts out, but then also you got to learn to keep going forward.
Yeah. It's like that Baz Luhrmann quote. He's like, accept the crit. Oh yeah. He's like filter, take all criticism, like take the constructive like pieces and filter out the negatives. If you figure out how to do this, tell me how. Like but that is true. It's like in everything, in every criticism there is some legitimacy, but also you got to know, how to remove the venom. Another thing is, you said, like you can't fit this in a class. And part of me thinks like the second it became a class, it would no longer be the thing, because it's like a quote I remember seeing in college when I still wasn't sure about med school, and but I just kept going because I was scared to stop. And it was this quote, and it was like, no professor is gonna tell you which semester that you need to go find yourself. They're like, no one's there to tell you that. And it's like, you got to go take the tab of acid and sit in the woods by yourself. No one's telling you. And that's one thing I've thought of over the years, is like, everything I've been through, like, it cannot be taught, because it comes from saying fuck that to all formal, institutionalized legitimacy. You can get a certificate. Like, there's no, like, you don't get there's no like, hey, you made it, here's your made it diploma. It's right, like, no, it's like the whole thing is you have to say fuck that and go, I'm gonna do this thing that isn't a real thing yet, like Joseph Lister using like sanitizer, right? It's like, you gotta, and everyone is gonna call you a fucking idiot, but it's like, that's almost the thing, is like, if someone can teach you, then that's not the real lesson, because the real lesson is going out and there is no teacher, and it's horrifying. Climbing up Mount Everest is hard. Having it, even with a Sherpa, it's hard. But if you just discovered a mountain and you're like, I'm going to climb it, but you don't even know if it can be climbed. It might take 10,000 deaths before they go, that one can't be climbed. But there's no one to tell you. You're like, it's you and there is no Sherpa. You're like, so on top of being an arduous journey, you don't even know if it can be done. The only way to find out is go up there, and it might kill you. But like, it's another thing you said is you got to know when to pull the ejection seat, and that is true. But that does not mean you're quitting. You're pulling the ejection seat because you're gonna go land in another jet and fly something else. It took me a long time with several different companies I've formed over the years to pull the ejection seat and realize that, like, okay, wait, this isn't quitting. This is I'm just looking at I'm looking at the writing on the wall and be like, this one isn't working. That didn't mean it's all over and I got to go get a 9 to 5. It just meant that one's not working. Get in
or it means like, yeah, you have to get a 9 to 5 for a little bit, stabilize back out, and then lick your wounds, get back in there.
Go back, wrap them up and go back in. It's
and that's the thing. And if we're gonna talk like culturally, I think that's something that we have lost over time, and it's a negative byproduct of having such great technology because as we know more, we almost become more risk aversive. It's like when you're a little kid, and like when I was a little kid, my grandparents had a pool. The way they taught me how to swim is they just pushed me in and said swim.
Yeah.
And I figured it out, and it's all good.
Yeah.
But I talked to a lot of people, or I've met a lot of people over the years, including like my wife and half her family, who as adults can't swim. And I'm like, well, why can't you? And then now, because they know somebody that's drowned, or they know this risk, or they know that risk, it's hard to get over that. And with an increased knowledge, I think comes a level of risk aversiveness, because you know all the bad things that can happen. But you have to be willing at some points just to be like, look, I know there are risks, but I want the reward. So you can't, like, you got to play to win at some point.
Yeah.
And I feel like we as a culture, we as a people have just lost that over the years. If we're going back to like, even thinking about like aerospace, for example. So back in the 60s, when they were like really trying to figure out, okay, so like they came up with jets around like the 40s and 50s, and by the 60s they were strapping rocket engines to planes and saying, fuck, let's do it. But I mean, but that came at a cost. Pilots were dying left, right, up, and down. I'm still reading Neil Armstrong's biography, and he was talking about like, they were going to a funeral like once a month for a pilot that he worked with because people were dying. Yeah. And now, like, we have all these computers. We can do all this great simulation before we actually build something and put it in the air. But at the same time, there's a less like, don't get me wrong, test pilots now are pretty ballsy, but even test pilots now will say like, guys back then were just made of different stuff because there were risks. They didn't know, they just had to do it.
Yeah.
And I think in my personal journey, that's one thing I've learned over the years. Because I mean, dude, like I was in med school, I was on the conveyor belt. All I had to do was sit down, shut the fuck up, smile, and survive. And I'm looking at 180K minimum as a salary.
Yeah.
And so when I was like, yo, I can't do this anymore, there were a lot of people, and I'm not talking bad about them, but to be honest, I had a lot of people who are close to me say like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, what are you doing? You got the golden ticket.
Like, dude, it was like, dude, you are going to fuck this up. Like, no, just stay where you are. Don't take that chance. And either way, I mean, like, if I end up successful and cool and the company takes off, or I go to space or whatever, that's awesome. But if I don't, at least I can live knowing that, hey, like, I took that chance.
Yeah.
And because I think there are a lot of people, even like my dad included, who a brief story, like my dad really, really wanted to be an aerospace engineer. He wanted to work on planes, all that fun stuff. And I don't know why, but he eventually got to a point where he's like, I don't think I can do this. And so he went the comp sci route, which was a lot safer. It's guaranteed job, good job, all that. And my dad has been very vocal throughout my childhood and my adulthood of how much he regrets not taking that risk when he was younger. And so seeing that growing up kind of formed me, and it allowed me to say like, hey, I got to take a risk. Like, it may not work out. It may crash and burn, but I don't know if I can live. I don't know if I can be completely safe and live with the consequences of that. Like, I don't want to spend my entire life wondering what if.
Yeah, dude. I remember the last night of summer before my last semester of college. So like August 2013, extra semester, victory lap. I remember I got, and was like, now it's like crunch time was coming. I had already taken the MCAT at this point. I had some med school interviews lined up, and it was like, I guess I'm on the conveyor belt. Like, I guess I've made up my decision. Like, I'm just too much of a pussy to get off. And it was just eating at me. And I went out with my buddies in Athens, Georgia, and we got fucking shit canned off orange cream, Pinnacle vodka, and cream soda. And I remember, and I remember coming back, and I was the first one back, and I just remember tearing through a bong, putting myself on goddamn Pluto. And was just, and you know, when you get high and you can't ignore those things where it's like, you don't want to do this, you don't want to do this, you don't want to do, you don't want to do med school. Pot doesn't let you ignore that. And I was just like, I don't want to think about it. I was like, I'm just going to play some games. I opened up my laptop and there was a picture on Reddit, and goddamn if this wasn't like the universe. And it was just like a, you know, some quote over like a waterfall, but the quote was by Maya Angelou. And there is no greater pain than bearing an untold story. And I just remember staring at that, and I was just like, I can no longer ignore it. And it still took me a couple more months to nut up and decide I wasn't going to go. But I think that from that point, that was like a splinter that was put into my foot. And it was like, you can keep going. Like, you can go to med school. Like, you clearly are capable of doing it. But it was like, just know, this splinter will be in your foot until the day you die.
Yep.
And the only way the pain will ever end isn't because you've reached peace on the day you die. It will be that you died and that you no longer have to feel the splinter. But there is no greater pain than bearing an untold story. And it was just like I couldn't, it was like having a ringing ear. Like for like weeks afterwards, it just didn't matter where I went, what I did. It was just, I could feel it. It was just a splinter in my brain. And it was just, there is no greater pain than bearing an untold story. And I was just like, what is my story? Like, because I didn't even know what I wanted. I didn't know I wanted to do a podcast. It was that much scary because I didn't even know what I wanted. It wasn't even like, I don't want to go to med school. I'm going to do what I really love. All right, well, what do you really love? I don't even know that yet, but.
Yeah, same thing here. Like, I had no clue, and I had to go back to the depths of my childhood to figure things out, and I'm still figuring things out. And to be honest, like, once you get off the conveyor belt, and you know this, and this is just more for the audience, but you spend a long time thinking, like, even though you know getting off the conveyor belt was the best decision, you still have nightmares about what it would be like to still be on. Like, dude, I had med school dreams and nightmares for years, and I was really like, dude, I still have a little bit of trauma just from that experience, because I'm like, oh my gosh, like we always say, what the fuck am I doing with my life? Like, you know, you look at, like, I don't know, I look at my bank account and I went negative for the 18th time this month, and I'm like, but, you know, you just gotta, it's part of the process. And again, I have always felt an innate desire to quote unquote be great. As vague as that sounds, I think it's a common human trait. But then as I'm getting older, I'm realizing, like, yeah, you can have that, but there's a price to pay. Are you willing to pay this price? And part of that price is being alone more often than not, or just feeling alone, or seeing things in a way that nobody else is going to see it. And it's not I can't see this, but I can't see this, and that's a bad thing. It's what the hell are you talking about? Things clearly work this way. It's being willing to challenge the norm, which, yeah, we say it all the time. Everybody wants to challenge the norm. It sounds nice in quotes, but then when you actually live this life, at times it's horrible, because you're like, oh my God, like, you don't know what's going to happen. And I think one thing that we have to do is we can't tell people how to get off the conveyor belt and live, but we have to convince them that, hey, if you want if you want more, you're going to have to, or we have to tell them, hey, if you want more, you're going to have to get off the conveyor belt at some time. And this is what happened when I went off the conveyor belt. These are the lessons that I've learned. You may see it this way. It may be different, but you just got to be ready for the ride. Like, we all celebrate the story, the Odyssey. Like, yeah, actually, the Odyssey is like one of my favorite pieces. It's one of my favorite books. Love classical Greek literature. But, you know, we all appreciate the Odyssey, looking at it, reading it from cover to cover. But sometimes I think about, like, damn, like, Odysseus was gone for 20 years. Like, and you can watch him, like, struggle with that. Like, there are points where there's one point in particular where he can see his home, and then all of a sudden he gets blown off ship or blown off course, and then he's off course for another 10 years. Yeah. And it's like, fuck. Like, we as the reader appreciate that, but, like, how does it feel to live that? And I think you and I both are experiencing that now, where we're living it. We're like, fuck, I don't know if I'm going to get home, but I'm going to fight to the end, because that's the way I want to live life. Like, I could be safe. I could play it safe entirely all the time, but then, you know, have I really lived?
Yeah, it's absolutely true, because, like, the hardest parts, like, there are obviously lows, but, like, the worst parts are the ones where you see home, is where you see it and you're like, I made it. I fucking made it. And then life, a 900-pound linebacker just comes out of your peripheral, and it's like, you know, surprise, motherfucker, and just breaks your neck, and you wake up in the woods just like, huh? You don't see the light anymore. There's a squirrel fucking humping your leg, and you're like, I saw it, though. And then what's even worse is it'll happen a second time where you're like, I see it, and I'm not going to make the same mistakes. And then it happens again, to the point where now, like, my podcast is going well. I'm at 195 subscribers, and I'm literally, like, looking over my shoulders, because I'm like, where's the linebacker? Like,
yep, where's it go? It's coming.
Yeah, but what I've realized is, like football, like, you can't hear footsteps. You know, when a receiver like, how come he didn't catch that? And it's like, he heard footsteps. He knew he was about to get nailed, so he didn't catch it, so they couldn't touch him. I realized, like, I can hear footsteps, but I'm like, I will never catch the ball it doesn't matter if it's happened 5 times and there it is, and I get hit. The only time I will ever catch it is if I try to catch it. Because one of those times, eventually, it doesn't matter if I hear footsteps, like, he's going to miss, right? Or the footsteps were just in my head. So even now, where it's like, I've almost become, I mean, dude, I got into med school in 2013. I'm going on 7 years of this, of just constantly getting close and failing. But I was like, you know what? Like, I'm a little scared at my podcast, because I'm like, it's working. And I'm just like, you know what? I might get blindsided and get my fucking neck broken again. But the only way I will ever catch it and get the touchdown is if I try to catch it. Like, it's like what Steve Harvey said. He's like, if you quit, you quit. He's like, if you keep staying with it, you still might not make it. But the only way you can make it is if you stay with it. If you quit, you will 100% not get it. That's what my logic is. It's like, it might take a year. It might take 5 years. It might take, I vividly remember in, like, August 2017 thinking I had finally, like, figured it out. And I was like, I remember thinking, I was like, so proud of myself. And I was like, 'cause I had a little company starting to form, and I was like, I finally fucking made it. And I was like, how bad would it be if, like, this one didn't work? And I was like, I couldn't even imagine. And now I'm looking back, and I'm like, you're not even going to start a podcast until December 2019. I was just like, you poor soul. But you can't look back at it like that. You were talking about classical literature. Well, one thing I was going to say is, I think the perfect quote to sum up everything you and I know is by Charles Bukowski. I think it's called Roll the Dice. There's, like, some guy reads it on YouTube. He's got, like, a deep gravelly voice. I'll send it to you. But it speaks to my soul. Do you know who he was, Charles Bukowski? Yeah. Dude, the way he talks about it, he's like, you face isolation, derision. He's like, you might lose your family, your wife, you might lose your mind. And he's just going on, and he's like, but if you succeed, he was like, the nights will be filled with fire, you will be alone with the gods, and it will continue. You will fall. You will spiral. You will something like you will spiral on to perfect laughter. He's like, you have to go for it, and you almost have to have all these failures. One last thing is, not the last thing. I just gotta go to the bathroom in a second. Have you heard, do you know The Hero's Journey by Joseph Campbell? And it's his
Yes.
like it is his like it can be found from the Odyssey through like Harry Potter. The Hero's Journey, something like 17 steps. That has helped me enormously. It's also driven me insane. I don't really know where I was going with all that, but yeah, dude, you gotta. It's what you were saying actually. Yeah, it's like we sort of lost that as a society to sort of push where nothing has been pushed before. But that got me thinking, like, it's almost like a catch-22. Like, if we started to embrace that as a society, it wouldn't be the same journey, because part of the journey is everyone looking at you like you're a fucking moron, because they don't see it. They don't see the pile of gold. You know, if we're on a trail up a mountain and you point out a pile of gold on top of a different peak, but it's just thick jungle, you go, I'm going to go through there. I go, you're an idiot, you might die, but yeah, man, that is a big old pile of gold. It's another thing if you're like, can you see the pile of gold? I'm like, what are you talking about? And you're like, I'm going to go. It's like, you're going to what? You're going to leave the nice paved road to walk through a jungle? You might die or get bit by a snake, and you're like, yeah, there's gold. And you're pointing exactly where you see the gold, and I'm going, it's a rock, and you're like, no, it's gold. That is the much harder part, because I think part of the journey is no one's going to condone your journey. That's the thing, is you're not a hero going off to war where it's like, you know, it's dangerous, but it's admirable. People are looking at you like, you what? You're chasing an invisible dollar bill. You see it floating around, and you're like, "Oh, a free $100." They're like, "You're running into traffic." Like, you know, it's. I don't know where I was going with that, but yeah.
Yeah, and I think, again, you know, I'm a big proponent of everything in moderation, everything. There's a balance to it all, because at some points, yep, there's my dog. Say hey to the people. Hi. But yeah, do you hold on for a second? Let me get.
I don't care. I don't give a shit.
Yeah, but so yeah, it's a little bit of a balance, because at some point, like, you have to realize, okay, I am chasing an invisible dollar bill, and I'm going onto the freeway during rush hour, and that might not be smart, but it's a really thin line. And I think that, again, is where you can't teach that. That's just something that you have to learn over time. And for me, I can't say that I've mastered that, but I've learned that skill, or I've learned that I need to learn that skill from reading about other people and the things that they accomplished. Or, you know, and it's not just about accomplishing things. It's about providing that bigger sense of, hey, I'm going to leave the world, and I made a little change, and it's better because I made a change. I think we all want to feel that, but the question is, how do you make that happen? And so, again, it's just you study what other people have done to get a rough idea of what may come, but ultimately it's to each their own. Oh, dude, did you ever watch Dragon Ball Z?
No, I didn't. I know you're gonna hate me. I remember. Yeah.
Oh, dude, I had a perfect metaphor.
Use it. Fuck it. That doesn't matter. Someone listening will.
Yeah. So in Dragon Ball Z, they had this thing called, like, going Super Saiyan.
I know that.
Yeah. And so everybody, and one thing about it was, everybody had a different reason that pushed them to that level. And so, like, with Goku, it was watching his friend get killed. With Vegeta, it was him trying so hard and then finally saying fuck it. And when he said fuck it, he just ascended to the next level. But there are general traits that get you there. Like, you had to be, it's on, like, the Wikipedia, where you had to be a certain, gosh, how do I word this? You had to be strong enough, you had to have reason enough, and then you had to have something make you mad enough to trip you the first time. But either way, everybody's reason is different, and everybody's path to that higher level was their own. And so I think it works the same way with what we're talking about, where everybody's path to that next level, if you should seek it, is going to be different. Like, yeah, there are some similar traits. You have to be willing to work. You have to be okay with the fact that you're going to be alone. You have to be crazy when people, like, you have to be crazy when other people are saying, no, that's stupid, don't do it.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, your path to that next level just is yours and yours alone. Like, it's not going to be like, Bill Gates's path or Zuckerberg's or, Michael Jordan's or whoever's. It's different. Yeah. And so, gosh, we're getting really into like philosophy. That's so cool.
Yeah, dude. That's what I fucking love about this podcast is having on Aaron. Robots. Here we are, hour in, philosophy, life motivation. I don't give a fuck, dude. That's how we're rolling. Keep going.
Right, but that's who we are as people. Like, we're not just one-dimensional. It's not just about the robots. It's not about the technology. It's not just about the science. There is the philosophy and the art and how it makes you feel, because and that's one thing, if we're going back to the robots, that we're really trying to hit on as an organization and as a brand, is we want to get beyond the technology, because that's what makes you stick. If you start getting into people's feelings and you start invoking their emotions, doesn't matter. They will follow you for they will follow you. They'll believe in you. Yeah. It may not always be logical, and then you start becoming invaluable.
Yeah. It's the same with SpaceX. It's like what draws engineers there isn't like one specific rocket. Like, the technology changes. It's the general flow, the general vibe of like, fuck everyone. We're breaking all the barriers. Like, we're doing shit unconventionally. That's why Elon Musk has an army. Other people have employees. He has an army. Like, yeah.
And even so, like, so with my intern experience at NASA, which, by the way, if COVID doesn't destroy us all, I get to go back this summer. So
asterisk.
But for me, it's like, so you like, it's the project that I'd be working on is, again, something with robots and using robots to build things in space. But like, when you step on center and you see the history and you're like, holy fuck, like, people, like, this is where the moon landing happened. Like, this is where Katherine Johnson figured it all out. And you get that feeling of pride, like, the emotions that experience it brings up, especially for me, like, dude, when I'm up there, I gladly put in 50, 60-hour work weeks, because it's like, so many cool things are happening. Like, I want to be a part of it. It's making me feel a bunch of ways. Like, I don't care. I don't get tired. Like, I'll keep going.
Sorry, I opened my windows to let in some cold air, but I can hear birds chirping, and I know the microphone's going to pick it up. So I'm going to close the windows. Keep talking. I can hear you. Keep talking.
Yeah, no worries. But it's invoking those emotions. It's sharing the philosophy. It's appealing to that humanity that takes any organization or brand and makes them essential.
Yeah, it's like what they used to say about they said Steve Jobs had what they called a reality distortion field, and they said that when you were in his presence, all of a sudden, like, you wouldn't be tired and you wouldn't have like negative, like pessimistic, like skeptical thoughts. They're like, when you were in his, like, they're like, literally when you were in with like within like 10 feet of him, all of a sudden they're just like, all you saw was like, oh, it can work, like, we can do it, and like, we can do it tonight, and like, and they're like, and the thing is like, it would work. They're like, he literally had like a reality distortion. Like, my friend Ivan was Mr. Bulgaria in 2015. He's a professional bodybuilder in Vegas. 6'4", looks like Arnold Schwarzenegger in his prime. He's fucking insane. I've worked out with him before, and like, dude, like, not only do you push through like barriers, you break through them at light speed and you go forever, because it's just like there's like a certain collective energy. And it's like, you can tap into it. It's very real. It's not some ooh, it's the energy, man. It's the vibes.
Yeah, the hippie, like,
no,
yeah, man. Yeah.
it's no, like you said, dude. Like going and working there, like you need less sleep. You work harder and faster. There's a legitimate like. It's like a boost. It's like, Hot Wheels. Like, it goes through like the thing that speeds them up. But it's real. It's legitimate. It's a real thing. It's another thing I was gonna say is, have you ever seen Deadpool?
Yes.
Yeah, I rewatched that the other night. That is kind of like the hero's journey. How they create the mutants. They put them through stress, and everyone's journey is different. But that's what it is everything compresses on you. And eventually you burst through and you become unstoppable. But you have to go through hell to get there. But when you break through, you are a mutant. You are a superhero. Or another thing I wrote down was, I've had on some nuclear scientists the last couple of days, and all this is kind of making me think of like a nuclear chain reaction. Like you said, when you're in the right spot, you can feel it speed up. The right people, there's synchronicities, and it all starts. You start getting done in a day what used to take a year. And another terrible thing about the hero's journey is like, it's like the guy I had on who was talking about nuclear fusion. He was like, we've seen the chain reaction, we just can't sustain it. He's like, but we know it exists. And that made me think of like all the times where like the thing that's kept me going is like, I've tasted success. I've dipped my finger in the pool. Odysseus, he's seen his home. So like I know it's there. It's just heartbreaking when it pulls. But like the chain reaction has started a couple times and then fizzled out. But I know it's there. So it's like, and what happens when you do succeed? It turns into a nuclear fucking bomb.
Yes.
Brighter than the sun. You can wipe out cities. It's so you go from like dynamite to all of a sudden the power of the gods. And like that's another thing I feel about it is like, I think it's a lot like a nuclear chain reaction. It takes forever to get going, but once you get it going, if you can sustain it, it can become the power. It's like Oppenheimer said, the power is heretofore reserved for the gods. But that's what it is. Like, look at someone like Joe Rogan or The Rock or other they've hit that level of just like nuclear fusion. They're like sustained energy. But like you have to go through fucking hell to get there first. But if you can stick with it to the chain reaction, like nothing can stop you. You become brighter than the sun. It's just the years leading up to it. It's the unsexy part. That's where you and I are. But I mean, as crazy and as bad as we make it out to be, you have to wonder, like, if it's so bad and it's so painful, the only logical thing you can think of is, well, why are these two still doing it? Oh, the goal must really be worth it.
Yeah.
If we're sitting here talking for an hour and a half about how painful it is, and it's like, but you're still doing it, and we both say without missing a beat, yes, and I will do it until I die. Yeah, and it's like, oh man, it's like, then we're chasing Valhalla. Like it is a goal that it transcends life. It's a personal. In a lot of ways, it is sort of like, it's like a personal enlightenment. It's an ascension. Yeah. It's level up. That's what. Yeah, you level up.
Yeah, you want to be on that higher. You want to be on that higher level, and there are. One thing that I've realized is, and it's not bad per se, but there are people who are perfectly happy where they are. They're like, look, I've worked hard. It's stable. Life is good. I have no complaints. Yeah. And I honestly, if I can be honest, sometimes I wish that I could be that way. Sometimes I wish that I could want to stay on the conveyor belt, because then it would be simple. It wouldn't be stressful. It would just be straightforward and easy. But, well, not even straightforward and easy. It just would be straightforward.
Yes.
And that's something that over the years I've just accepted, that there is a core part of me that just would not be satisfied. And it's not to say that that's wrong or evil or that those people are complacent or bad. No, like everybody has the right to choose how they want to live their life. It's their lives. It's just with me, there is a part of me where I'm like, there's got to be something to chase. I'm not trying to get somewhere and just level off. I want to go as high as I can possibly go.
I don't ever want to reach the finish line.
Right.
I want to get closer to it. I want to touch it. Yeah. But I don't want to get off the treadmill. I want this fucker to... I talked to a guy the other day, Warren Eschpeter, who's building a meme satellite. Literally a CubeSat. It's going to beam back memes.
I saw that. I saw the previews for that. I got to go back and watch it.
Yeah. Dude, that guy's a funny motherfucker. But we talked about the same thing. And he's like, dude, I'm just not happy, like, getting a job where all my other friends are just, okay, we're engineers. He's like, I got to be chasing. And I'm like, dude, it's the same. And it took me really probably until this last year of my life. So I'm 29 and a half now. So it probably took me till I was 29 to finally realize that the people that don't operate the same way that I do, that does not mean that they're lazy or bad or have any negative traits. And it's embarrassing that it took me almost 3 decades to realize that like they're different from you, and that's what's good for them. They love their 9 to 5 Monday through Friday as much as I love chasing the peak of Mount, Olympus. It's and when I realized that, it's like, oh, they would be as unhappy doing this as I would be doing that. And when I finally realized that, that made things a lot better too. I was like, oh, we just have different goals, and neither of them are objectively better. It's just mine's better for me, yours is better for you. And that has also helped me a lot with plowing through criticism, because I'm like, who's criticizing me? Is Elon Musk looking at me going, "Do your dreams retarded"? Then I'd be like, oh fuck, the dreamer told me to stop dreaming. But once I realized, like, a lot of people shitting on me are people who just have different goals. They're going up to the North Peak and I'm going up to the South Peak, and they're going, "You're an idiot." I'm like, what's helped me realize is like, well, we're going to different peaks. Of course you're gonna think I'm an idiot. Like, yeah, that was the end of that.
No worries, man. Like, and then one thing too, like, and this comes from, being married, one of the awesome things is I have a wife who will always tell me the truth, and she will anchor me before I float off into oblivion. Yeah. And one thing that she told me is that, because we were having a conversation, and she said, well, one thing that I fear about you is the fact that you'll never be happy because you're always going to be chasing something. And I thought about that, and I could see the concern. I think one thing, though, that I'm realizing is that for me personally, the happiness comes just from the thrill of the chase. Like, it's about the process, not necessarily the end result. So, like, brief example, my wife and I, we have very different philosophies on DIY work. My wife is like, look, I do DIY if it's cheap or if it lets me get something that I can't get, and I really hate the process. And basically, she'll find furniture, and if it's not easy to stain, sand, and paint, she's like, nope, I'm not doing it. Me, on the other hand, like, I just built a workbench in my garage. Like, I bought the wood, sawed it myself, like, messed up a few things, and we were talking about that, and I was like, well, for me, it's the process. I don't really care if the workbench is perfectly straight, or I do care, but, for me, the satisfaction isn't in having this perfect piece. It's the process of creating my own, what I've learned. I have learned a lot about woodworking just from that single project. And it's that process that, for me, that's the thrill. That's where it's like, oh, this is awesome. Like, now I have a workbench and it's cool. And it's like, yeah, whatever. I put stuff on it. I build my robots on it, but it's not as thrilling as when I was building it, because it was like, yes, it's learning something new. Yeah. It's just, that chase. It's that goal that you're striving for. Yeah.
And I've thought about what your wife said is you'll never be happy. And I contemplate that a lot too. And I realized happiness, like, it's not that I'll never be happy. I think I'll always be happy, because I'm always, now there's a certain level. Like right now, I live in my parents' house. I'm almost 30 years old. I don't have a social life. I don't have a girlfriend. I don't have a pop in anything. right now, it's very true that like I'm grinding 24/7 because it's like, dude, I want to just live by myself. I had more freedom when I was 19 and in college. It's like, dude, I feel like I'm in middle school again. But like, so for that level, you're right. No, I will not be happy until I get out of here, until I have my own apartment, until I get a girlfriend, until I have a social circle again. Like, but even once I achieve all of those, I'm still going to keep chasing a goal. It probably won't be as absolutely fanatical because like I do want to be able to slow it down at some point and have a girlfriend, have a meaningful relationship. It's just there's different tiers. It's like right now, like I gotta get the fuck out. But once I get to that point, it's like I will be happy, and it won't be like once this podcast earns enough money to give me a shitty apartment. Like I will be happy in that like I have gotten out, maybe get a girlfriend, get some friends, just anything, just have a life again. But I'm still going to keep aiming to make the podcast the fucking biggest one in the world because that's who I am. I have to have this goal. And that doesn't mean that that's all I'm going to do 24/7. No, I would love to have a normal life again. But when everyone else is going back to work, I just want the thing I'm going back to not be, and we're on the podcast in another episode. Every day is like, how many more viewers can I get? Can I get some more subscribers? Who's the next guest? Like, grow this motherfucker. Like, you have to keep it alive, man. It's just, that's how I operate. It's someone like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos. Like, they have all the money in the world. Like, they're not going for money. Anyone that's like, they're greedy, it's like, dude, they're not continuing. It's like, they're not continuing to work to make money. It's like, why do they need more? They're billionaires. It's like, dude, they're not billionaires who are working more. They're crazy, determined, driven, dreamer people who just so happen to make $1 billion in the process. But the reality is they're going to keep going. The billion was a side effect. The billion wasn't the goal. The billion was a side effect. And that's how I feel I am. Is like, I am happy. But that's just how I am. And like you said, the worst part of like a video game is when I beat it. And I'm like, I'm like, motherfucker. Yeah. Now what?
So I found Banjo-Kazooie on the Xbox store.
Nice.
Like classic, and it was remastered for Xbox One. So I've been playing it. I think I've sunk about 25 hours into it, and I beat it yesterday, and I was like, now what?
Yeah, now what? And and the criticism is like, see, you'll never be happy. And it's like, no, I'll always be happy because I just find things to chase.
Right. And another thing, so with the happiness, for me, partially, it's finding a new thing to chase. But then another thing, too, is like moments like this where I get to go and reflect and share everything that I've been through. And when I sit down and think about it, it's like, holy shit, I've been through a lot. That's like... I remember, again, if we're talking, because going back to the classical literature, like one of the themes that I really extracted my first time going through the Odyssey was the concept of living a full life. And so that's always been an internal goal of mine ever since I was like 14 or 15. It's like I said, I want to get to a point where when I die and my life flashes before my eyes, I want to be like, that shit was awesome.
You'd be like, damn. Yeah.
And so when I think about everything that's happened, because for me, med school was 2014 to 2015, everything. And even then, like there was a few years where I was living with my grandparents and I wasn't sure what was going to happen next. And so just looking back on the collective, on the collective body that is my life, and I talk about all the things, or thinking about all the things that I've done, the places that I've been, the experiences that I've had, like that makes me really happy because like, as I'm living it now, it sucks once like I said, when I overdraft for the 18th time, but then when I think, damn, I went through all of this and I'm still kicking, like that just makes me proud. And it's like, it makes me realize that I'm well on my way to accomplishing that goal that I set when I was 14, 15 and said like, hey, I want a full life. So far I can say that my life has not been boring. There are boring parts, but overall it's a hell of a story. And I mean, I couldn't ask for more. So
no, I'm with you, man. It's like, there's no like fear of death because I've done it, and like I'm not where I want to be,
Yes.
Like, it's not like I've made it yet, but in terms of like, if death comes knocking and it's like, oh, why I ran out of time, like, there is
let's go.
Yeah, there is no fear of that. Like, even I was just thinking like coronavirus. Like, I was thinking like, I was like, let's say like this. I was just thinking like the other week. I was like, what if this is like just the end of the fucking world? And I remember thinking, I was like, I'm upset because like I haven't got to like blow up my podcast yet and like get my own apartment and build a room specifically for Xbox. Like, you know, just like shit like that. But I was like, there's no like, oh no, wait, I still wanted to do this one day. It's like, no, I did everything I wanted to do. Like, there's a certain piece that all of the when I look back and I'm like, dude, I got into med school. I'm like, dude, I got into pharmacy school. I'm like, dude, I published research that you can find on PubMed. Like, dude, I started a 501(c) charity for mental health. Like, dude, I've created a graphic design business. Like, my subreddit has 17,000 or 19,000 people in it. Like, I've grown my podcast. Like, I'm like, God damn, like, it's a story. And I'm like, it's been soul crushing at times, more times than I'd like to admit. But God damn, when it's all said and done, man, like, my life is something that, like, it's not like, well, why would I want to, like, you know, like me, like, I can't listen to my podcast because, like, I already know them. Like, I know the conversation. For me, like, my life is something I could watch. Despite having lived it, like, that's something that, like, I could watch. I'm like, because it's good. It's fucking good. It's insane. It's funny. It's heartbreaking, but it's good. I was gonna say, you know who David Goggins is?
I can't say that I do, but
he is a modern day Spartan.
Okay.
He had Navy SEAL Ranger. He's super. You need to look him up. He's awesome. He's fucking insane. He is insane. But he had a thing where he's like, you know, he's like, I believe when we die that we go to heaven and there's a God. He's like, whatever that God may be, it's different for everyone, whatever. And he's like, and you go to that creator, and the creator has like a list, and it says like what you were supposed to be, or what you could have been. And he's like, for me, because at one point he was like a 300-pound guy spraying for cockroaches at like Steak and Shake. And he's like, for me, if I died then, it would go up and say, hey, you were supposed to be 185 pounds, retired Navy SEAL, Army Ranger that runs ultra marathons, but you just didn't go through the pain long enough. He says, oh, fuck, like, I could have done that. He's like, for me, what I want to do is I want to die and go up there, and I want the creator to be looking at the list and go, I didn't see this coming. Like, I had you down for 185 Navy SEAL. He's like, I didn't have ultra marathon down. He's like, that's what he says. He's like, I want to go up there and I want the creator to look at me and smile and go, I know everything, and I didn't see that coming. He's like, so I want my fate written in stone. I literally want to go up there and have the gods be like, so he did some more. Everyone else, most people, we tell them what they could have done and they're sad. Very few people we say, hey, you did it all. And they know actualization. They know enlightenment. I want to go up there and have them be like, you did what? Like, that wasn't in the script.
You can do that?
That wasn't in the script. Like, I'm the director. I just watched the movie. I did not write that ending, but that ending was fantastic. That's what I want, man. I want, you know, I don't want to, you know, like, I want to, you know, to finish and be like, oh, you know, you could have been a doctor. Oh, but yeah, you could have made a podcast. Cool. I want it to be like, you made a podcast, but like, what? You also made like a dent in like mental health care, or, you know, you also, like, me and the guy, or the guy that's building the satellite, we're fucking around talking about how can we build the fastest satellite ever launched by man. And I'm having a rocket scientist on Tuesday that's going to help me. This guy's friends with Bob Lazar. And yeah, because I was just like, how cheap could it be? What if we could build a satellite that's pure mission with speed? But I was just like, I want shit to be like, I want to die and be like, so you did it. You nutted up. You decided not to go to med school. You built the podcast. That was the journey. You built a satellite and you helped change mental health care and you did X, Y, and Z. I didn't see that coming. Like, that's what I want. I want to go up there and be like, yeah, you know, sorry, I'm not sorry about it. Like, you know, like, that's what I want, man. And I think that's what you want is, yeah, it's just, I don't know where the fuck I'm going with this.
No, man, let it ride, man.
Yeah.
It's good.
Yeah.
Like, good conversation, man. But yeah, no, I want a similar thing. I never thought about it exactly that way, but hearing it from your perspective, I'm like, yeah, like I wanted to be like, oh, I didn't see that coming, but that's awesome.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Yeah, welcome. That was nuts. Here, you sit in the big chair. You sit in the big chair, man. Let's see what you can write. Like, that's what I want, man. That's what I want. I want God to look at me and go like, I didn't see that coming, man. Like, I created the dinosaurs. I did not see that coming. It's
like, dude, I built a T-Rex. But I did not see that coming. Yeah, I thought about a T-Rex.
That's what I want. I want like a fist bump. Like, that's what I want. It's just like respect. Like, that's how crazy I want my life to be. But to do that, you also have to you have to be married to the insanity. You have to acknowledge that it's always going to be fucking nuts. But the thing is like, once you get to a certain level, like, I do think it does get easier. Elon Musk, he can now do crazy shit. And people are like, a much smaller percentage of people are like, that's crazy. Now people are like, yeah, he'll do it. It's like, so now when he says like, I want to build tunnels under LA, or I want to launch a colony on Mars, now people are like, he'll probably do it. It's it's when, not if. That's like, so like, I do believe it does I don't think it's always a vertical climb like where we are right now. I do think it gets to a point where it's like, you can always be the dreamer, and it doesn't always have to be this like 9th round 2 black eyes. Like, you can get better and better at it to where I want to get to the point in my life where like I want to interact with the world like you do in like a sandbox game where you can just build anything, or Just Cause, you can put like balloons and rockets on a bus and like turn it into, you can literally like, you can put like balloons, rockets on a bus and then like mount a minigun. You can literally make like a floating gunship. Like I want to interact with the world in a way that like it turns into my playground. Yeah, that's what I want.
So you want to be like Elon and Bezos, basically.
And I want it to all be for good. Like I want to show people that like you don't have to be like evil. You don't have to be Lex Luthor. Like, I'm worth $1 trillion. I want to show that like you can have a ball doing it, and it can all be for good. Like, that's what I want to do. As I really do. Yeah, I want the world to, I'm not a product of environment. My environment's a product of me. Like, that's what I want. I want to leave a fingerprint on the world, and for the better. Like,
yeah, I'm the same way too. Like, I've never. So in my older age, like me almost being 30, like I realized that I don't necessarily want to be really, really rich or world famous, but I just want to leave, like you said, some fingerprint somewhere that meant something. And one thing that, again, my wife is incredible because she challenges me and she makes me think about things in a different way. But she's like, well, what if it's not necessarily supposed to be you? What if it's supposed to be like, what if you have this idea, this feeling, and it's a value that you pass on to your kids or your grandkids, and then they go off and rewrite history? You played your part. Yeah. And so I was like, and in thinking about that, because again, I'm going through Neil Armstrong's book, and they spend a really long time going through his genealogy. And at some point, like, you're looking at his great-grandfather, and it's like, did that person have an inkling of a feeling that in a couple generations, like, their great-grandson would be the one to walk on the moon? Or was it, like, I don't know. Like, I feel like maybe this desire to push to be on a higher level, if I push and don't get there, if it's something that's palpable or observable to somebody else, maybe that's what pushes them. And who knows, that's the person who walks on Mars, or that's the person who says, I got it. This is how we fix global warming. Yeah. Like, so I'm definitely learning to have a broader perspective on just this sense of self-actualization and what that really means. Like, I'm learning that it's not just about me. It could very well be that I am the prototype for something better. And I have like some of the core characteristics, but then flaws, but then over time, the design gets reiterated. I can't help but sound like an engineer here. Thanks, school. Yeah. but over time, like things go through like rounds of redesign, and then you get this really great product. Like there's the possibility for that, and I accept that as well. Yeah. Although it would be cool to be the one to like go to that next level, but it may not be me, and that's okay.
Yeah, I totally get what you're saying, and for me, I look at it as like, it's as long as I hit my subjective level. Like, I may reach a point one day where I realize that, oh, it's my son that's going to be the person that does this. But as long as I am happy with, like, I don't give a shit if it's me or, like, my great-grandchildren. For me, there's a personal, like in David Goggins, he's like, there's no finish line. He's like, I'm not searching for a finish line. I'm searching for a feeling. For me, it's not, it's as long as I feel like I did the thing and I became what I was supposed to be. I don't care what that is. That might ultimately be I find peace in gardening and no one ever hears of me again. But for me, it's like, if I find that personal peace, I don't give a shit. Then it wasn't like, oh, you didn't become a billionaire and change mental health. Yeah, no. For me, it was to become a gardener in Iowa, whatever. Like that. So yeah, for me, maybe it's me, maybe it's someone listening to this podcast. I don't know. Dude, the biggest influence on me that actually got me to start thinking about, I don't like med school, I don't want to do this, was December 2011 when I fucking heard Joe Rogan for the first time. His podcast was barely a year old. He's the motherfucker that started sowing seeds into my brain. Who's to say that I don't influence something and that's directly attributable to him? And he can look at it one day and go, oh, this one of my billions of listeners I change, or maybe I change someone. So it's, yeah, I think as long as you can push the ego out of the way and be like, yeah, it might not be me, but if you're still happy with it, then I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters at all. It's personal. I am like, it doesn't matter if I'm not the one that walks on Mars. I can walk on my subjective, metaphorical Mars. Does that make sense? And that's the other thing, is like, you have to be okay with knowing that, it might not be you. That's part of the risk. That's part of the journey. You might do the whole thing and you might get killed.
It's the price you pay.
You might get your head chopped off 10 feet before the finish line. And you can't go, well, is that worth the risk? Is that worth the risk? It is, once you realize that, oh, you never really gave a shit about the finish line. It was just knowing that you went on the race. If you got to the finish line, cool. But for me, it doesn't matter if I die. It's like, I had the balls to do it. I had the balls to get off the conveyor belt to, here's $200,000. You're a doctor. Like, for me, it's like, I already have all the personal accomplishment that I want. I'm like, I jumped off the cliff. Like, don't get me wrong, I want to succeed more. Like, but like, in terms of like, no, man, the entire thing is like, I don't give a fuck. Like, I went for it. I went for it. Like, that's,
it's about having the courage to actually live, in my opinion. Like, for me, that's like, I don't care if I make the jump. I don't care if I miss the jump. The point is that I jumped, and I'm not going to live the rest of my life thinking, what happens if I would have jumped? And so again, like, this whole venture, the company and engineering and giving up med school and then the space stuff, like, yes, of course I'm chasing for more. Like, yes, I want the company to take off. Yes, I want to play a bigger part in human space exploration. But at the end of the day, the fact that I said, hey, this is where I want to be, and I took steps to at least put myself in the general direction, like, I'm happy as is. Like, I'm not striving for happiness as much as I'm striving for more, because and I'm just striving to get things done, because in a weird way, the decision to strive has made me happy enough.
There's a person.
It's like I'm just going for bonus points here.
Exactly.
At this point.
It's like when you're again playing a video game and you break the high score, right? So I was playing Just Cause last night, Just Cause 4. It looks fucking amazing on Xbox One X on a 4K TV. But like I've already beaten the game, so I was just fucking around yesterday, just trying to beat like personal like records and stuff. And one of them was like you have a wingsuit with rockets on it, and you can get an accomplishment. It's for like number of consecutive kills without dying and without using bullets. And like my one before that was like 31 or something, and I just kept like, that stood for like a year, and I finally broke through it yesterday, and I got to like 32, and I kept playing, and it wasn't like oh like, well, when am I going to be happy? I'm like, no, I'm already psyched. I broke the record.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, no, I just want to go for bonus points, and it's like if I die, I die. But it's like I just want to go. Dude, I ended up getting up to 300. I fucking played for like 6 hours. You know what I'm going to do after this podcast? I'm going to go try to break that fucking record again, because there's nothing fun about I want to break it. I'm going to try to break it. And once I get above 300, I'm going to keep going, because like that is in itself, there's a certain peace and fulfillment that I don't think you can describe. It's just like I made the jump. Even if this doesn't work, and that's the other thing is like I never look when people are like, well, what if this never works? What if like this is failure? To me, the only time it can ever be said that it didn't work will be if I die and I have not accomplished it yet. But to me, as long as I'm still alive, I can keep trying, and therefore you can never quite say it's a failure yet. I just haven't gotten it yet. I kept going. So for me, failure literally does not exist as a possibility in my timeline. I either die and then I'm a failure, but I'm no longer around to experience being a failure. It's like I never gave up. Someone can kill me, sure, but like you can't say you broke me. Like I've gotten close, but like I always get back up and keep going. So for me, there's no fear of like, what if this doesn't work, or what if you're not the one? Because all that means to me is like if it hasn't happened, that just means it hasn't happened yet. That's all it means to me. When you close it up and say it can't be done, and you submit and it's not like go get a 9-to-5 for a little while and then you lick your wounds, get back ready to come out. When you close the laptop and say, you know what, you're right, I'm just going to go get a 9-to-5 forever, that to me is failure. But the only person that gets to decide that is you.
Yeah.
Even if you have to go get a 9-to-5 for 10 years and lick your wounds, as long as you're still scheming, you still got your notebook and you got an idea. Maybe this can work. Maybe this can work. Maybe this can work. I can, you're an insane person, but then eventually what do? You invent the fucking light bulb, and it's just like glory. Like, yeah, man, it's, yeah, dude.
Dude, and again, like these are little things that we try to teach, and we don't necessarily get as explicit because again, a 12-year-old,
sure,
cognitively they're not there yet to understand, but the whole concept of there is a world of ridiculous possibilities out there, and you, as cliche as it sounds, all you have to do is try. Like you will fail. It won't work in a lot of cases, but every now and again, if you try hard enough, you will get something and you'll be happy with it. So I don't know, man. It's just and I think that is just, again, there's no school for how to get off the conveyor belt and live and be happy with it. But I think little things like what we do with brain robots at least show some of the details of that process. So I'm really excited to see how things develop with it. I'm really the kids are all excited. Like, again, it's opening up that world of possibilities, because there's, and one thing I always like to tell kids too, because of course, like I do the same, not the same presentation or spiel, but they're very similar. So I'm like, have you ever wanted to have superpowers? And every kid is like, yeah, because who doesn't want superpowers? And then I asked them, well, what if I told you could make your own? And then all of a sudden you just watch like the light bulb go off and they're like, oh my God. Yeah. And you see the world. It's like you unplug them from the Matrix and they see what it really is.
Yeah.
And so that's the goal that we're striving for. That's with the technology. That's what we want. We want to unplug. We want to unplug specifically in this phase of the company. Since we're focusing heavily on ed tech, we want to unplug the students and show them what they're really seeing and what really is out there for them to grab. Okay, so it is called cogito. Have you ever heard of the phrase cogito ergo sum? I think, therefore I am?
Yes.
Yes, so that's where it comes from.
How do I spell it? I want to look it up.
Cogito. I don't know if that's how you actually pronounce it, but that's what I heard on a YouTube video, so we're going to roll with that.
Spell it again? I blotted it. How do you spell Cogo?
Cogito.
Cogito. Cogito. Good enough for me.
Yeah, I mean, hey, yeah, that's Latin's a dead language, so I don't know if anybody knows how to actually pronounce it. But
who gives a shit?
Yeah.
But yeah, man, like, so what are you guys doing? Like, what are some, I don't know, what are some, because you're doing two things that are very different, but obviously intertwined, and one is inspiring kids to get into science, and the other is robots controlled by our brainwaves. Is there a bigger picture for the robots controlled by your brainwaves? Is it purely to inspire kids to get into science? Is that just a side effect? Like, it's outreach, but you guys also want to, you have a vision to become this huge fucking company, and you have these, like SpaceX. Like, I'm sure, I can only imagine that they have a number of people that go out to, like, kindergartens and stuff, and, like, but that's not why they exist. That's just an awesome thing they do on the side, but it's not why they exist. Because I've heard you talk about the outreach to kids, but I'm just curious, like what else is there? What's the plan for the company? That's what I'm interested in now.
Yeah, definitely. So primarily the company exists to create technology that you can control with your brain.
Skynet.
And so,
I said cough. Skynet. Cough.
But so. And the robots were the first thing that we made, and we've expanded off to video games.
Hey, keep talking. Expanded off to video games yet?
Video games. We eventually, our big vision is to actually get into therapy. So whether it's actual behavioral therapy, so working with students that have attention deficit disorder, or even if it's some kind of clinical therapy, so helping people as they're recovering from strokes, or if they're dealing with things like MS, Parkinson's disease, like brain diseases that deteriorate the brain. We would hope that our tools would actually help them exercise their brain. So with this technology, we're primarily marketing as a brain exercise tool, because that's legally what we can do. But under this umbrella, we're gaining exposure and traction, and eventually we want to do studies and get data and say, hey, if we have the data and it backs us to say that we can be a therapy tool, then we're now a therapy tool. And so, since the technology is cool and interesting, we're using it with students to A, get ourselves out there, but then B, that's how we generate a lot of our revenue to fund some of our bigger ventures.
What are some things on the horizon for y'all?
So ironically enough, and I think everything happens for a reason, a girl that I was really close to in med school, she was like a little sister to me. She's now a neurology resident at Wake Forest, and she saw our robots on Instagram, and she was like, yo, we got to do a study.
Fuck yeah.
So now, of course, with Corona and everything, we got to hit the pause on that. Like, damn Corona. Yeah. But eventually we want to, if we have that connection, I also have another friend who is in residency for psychiatry. So just starting to slowly break ourselves into the clinical realm, like that's our next goal. I forgot. A bit of a spaz here, sorry. So we did a demo for an outreach program, And one of the people there was the South Carolina School Counselor of the Year. And she saw our work and she's like, hey, I'm really interested. Teaching kids how to focus. If you tell the kid to pay attention, that's such an abstract concept to like a 10-year-old. Like, what does that actually feel like? She said that she thinks that there's great potential in our technology to help get rid of the abstraction. And so with that, she's like, hey, I want you to come in and work with my students. She wants to generate papers from the psychological side, not necessarily the clinical. Is it physically making the brain stronger, but how's it making students feel? Do they actually think that using a tool like this can help them focus better in the classroom? And just things like that. And so she's very well connected. She's like, hey, I can get you access to state legislators and we can get on some grants and some research papers and conferences. Like, and so we're like, okay.
Synchronicity. Yeah. What will that look like? Help kids focus and pay attention. Like what all would that look like?
So it's essentially the thing that I always pitch with is, what do you do when you want your body to be strong?
Work out.
Right. And so what do you do when you want your brain to be strong?
Work out your brain.
Exactly. So this would be kind of a workout for the brain. One thing, when we build the robots and they respond to how focused you are, one thing that I've realized is that different people have different things that make them focus. And so if one person's like, hey, to pay attention, I really have to look at what I'm trying to pay attention to. That could be something that the robots can help the students discover. Or maybe a student realizes like, hey, the robot works better for me if I'm writing down what I'm trying to do, or if I'm writing down as I'm watching something. So maybe I need to write down things or draw when I'm in class. Things like that.
Yeah. How would you use it for something like because I'm trying to think of like brain workouts, because I remember in college just studying all day, I used to literally switch up the different types of schoolwork I was doing into like 3 or 4 different kinds, and I would cycle them out every 90 minutes. So if I was doing blunt memorization, didn't matter what it was for. If I was memorizing math equations, physics equations, organic chemistry, whatever, if the act was memorization, that would be one block. And like a workout, your biceps tired, all right, now move on to your deltoid, whatever. Once I'd hit that point, I would jump to like abstract reading or something, or literature, or whatever I had to do for that class. And then like a third type was like problem solving, and that could be organic chemistry, that could be physics, math, that could be balancing chemical equations, whatever. And then like the fourth type was like drawing, and that was like biochemistry, organic chemistry, molecular bio. Yeah, but what I would do is I would flip, so it didn't matter what the course was. It was, because each course I would do the different types of learning with, depending on what the test was on. But I would do the types of learning, and I would separate them each by like 90 minutes, and then I could come full circle and start again. And by the time I came full circle, that part of the brain it was almost like it was refreshed. It was like I came back to the bicep. And I could find that I could go, for me, there was a purpose to this. It was so I can study for 12 hours. It was, how do I do this? Well, I break it up into like workouts. What would you be able to do for someone, I guess elderly people or anyone with like an atrophied part of their brain? Are there like different things like, hey, focus on the robot, and are there different ways to activate different parts of the brain? So it'd be like, you need to work on this part.
Yes, so that's something we're actually in the process of really delving into right now. One thing is, so with the headsets that we use, we have access to how focused they are, how relaxed they are. We have access to data that senses whether or not they're anxious. Also, there were a whole bunch of different emotions that that the headset can read. And so what we're in the process of looking at now is how to integrate those emotions into the robot. So that's one way, is we can work on saying like, okay, you need like paying attention works out this part of the brain, so let's have you pay attention. Okay, relaxing works out this part of the brain, let's have you relax. And then another thing too was within the robots, we were designing different modes. So one of the modes is, hey, just you have free control of the robot. You can make it go one direction or the other. Another mode is, hey, you can now make the robot turn. And so that makes it a little bit more complex. So you have to switch between how you're thinking. So which brain waves and which part of the brain is working to actually make the robot function the way that you want it to. And then another mode that we had started, we put this on the drawing board and we're definitely excited about it, is it's like a little Simon Says, where the robot does something and each action is mapped to a specific brain wave or a specific brain activity center, or what I'm trying to say is like part of the brain that lights up. And then you would have to then do the same action to make it's like Bop It, but with your brain.
Yeah. Jesus Christ. Yeah. So when you're saying like the robot like turning, does that mean like it'd be like, great, it's going through a maze or something, and it'd be like, all right, to go forward I have to, I don't know, like I have to focus on like stillness, and then like to turn I have to like visualize something, because that would be a different part of the brain. Is that what you mean? I'm trying to follow. This is above my head. I'm trying to stay with. I'm trying to stay with.
my head too. Like I'm just kind of making it up as I go.
Yeah, no, I feel. Yeah, dude, I feel you.
Yeah, but so there are different ways that you can do it. You can say, okay, to make the robot go one way, I have to pay attention to one specific thing. To make it turn, I have to let my mind wander. Also, to make it blink 3 times, I have to visualize something in my head, because that activates a different center of the brain. So it again, it's really endless. Like we're only limited to what we can detect in the brain, which as time goes on, we get access to better headsets and materials, then we have access to better to more accurate brain data, so we can add more features. Am I making sense?
You are. No, you are. So I remember last time you talked about, what I thought was the coolest thing was like using robots to like assemble like structures on the moon, and then you cover them in like lunar dirt, and they like harden into that structure, and then you can like remove the robots and go on to like the next part. So it's almost like when you cover like a balloon with, did you ever do that in school, where you cover a balloon with string and paste, and then you can like pop the balloon but you still have the sphere? I know that's like doing a complete 180, but that's one thing I remember, and I just thought that was badass as fuck. So like what is that? Is that anything that you guys would be able to do, or was that just like a NASA pipe dream? Or
so that's a project that I worked on at NASA as a student intern. But one thing I have considered, especially and again, right now, I have to add this footnote. We're trying to keep our design costs down. So our headset that's actually measuring your brain is one of the cheaper models.
Yeah.
But when you go up to, like, it costs about $100 a headset. And so, but there's another headset that when you start getting into like the $500-$600 range, then you can. I'm sorry, I'm rambling here.
No, not at all.
So the $100 headset can track general trends and how you're thinking, but a more expensive headset can actually track like specific thoughts.
Oh, shit.
So one thing that we've considered is that we would have a game where you have a bunch of robots, and if you have a headset that's tracking specific thoughts, so if you think square, 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 and the robots detect that, they would form themselves into a square. And then if you think circle, 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 the robots could form themselves into a circle. So that's a when we get like right now we're very V1, very rough around the edges, but with more funding, like that we get some funding, I'm totally doing an R&D project on that. Like I'm ordering that from the top down.
Okay, all right, yeah. So all right, yeah, we'll hold off the lunar structures for the future. Okay. So now, have you guys done any like fucking around on your own, even if, because obviously you're using the cheaper headsets so more people can use them, but have you guys done any like just like, you know, in-house research where you get one of the more expensive ones and just see what it can do, just flex nuts a little, just so you can prepare for like what's next, you know, because you don't want to just all of a sudden get a windfall and get some cash tomorrow and be able to buy all these headsets and be like, oh shit, well now we got to learn, like they're super advanced, but like what are their capabilities? How can we make this work for us? Do you guys have like, you know, it's like the US doesn't build 100 prototype stealth fighters at a time. We build one and then we test the fuck out of it. So when we do get the funding and we can mass produce it, then we can crank out a bunch of F-22s. Do you have like a dope one and it's like, oh, we know it's on the horizon, we just like, we can't afford this in mass right now?
So personally, prior to forming the company, I actually, there was a teacher in our bioengineering department who let me borrow the $500 headset, and I was screwing around with it, and man, it's awesome. So as a company officially, no, but prior to, yes, I know what the capabilities are. And so again, that's how, when I made the statement of, well, the cheaper headsets can track thought patterns where the more expensive headsets can start to hone in on specific thoughts. It actually has a feature where it's saying it'll like bring a square or something towards, or no, what it'll do is say, imagine that you're moving this ball. And then it'll run that sequence a few times, and it's actually measuring what your brain is doing, and it makes an internal association. So when you fire off on those patterns, you're thinking about moving a ball.
Oh, shit.
And so, and of course, like from a technical engineering standpoint, there are pros and cons. The $500 headsets actually, they have 16 leads that have to attach to your head a very certain way, and then they have to also be soaked in a saline solution. And that can cause the leads to corrode over time, and there are issues with that. So I know that those are generally there on the horizon, but still, just having the concept of, yes, we can actually measure specific thoughts and link those to actions, like that's what I'm really excited for.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I was thinking like, you know, just take it a step further. If you could take a couple and go like square, 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 and you could create a square. Let's scale it forward on a long enough timeline. What if you could get a swarm of 100 trillion nanobots, the size of just, I don't know, the size of a beach ball? You could think like, you know, some sculpture by Michelangelo.
And then have it morph into the sculpture, yeah.
God damn, man. Have you seen Transformers 4? That's what it's like. I don't know whether they figure out transforming them and they literally start like, just like they think of a Glock and they have a Glock, and then they think of a baseball bat and they have a baseball bat.
Yeah.
That's what it's coming to, man. That is some like divinity. Where you could literally be like, close your eyes like Michelangelo. Poof. There's the statue.
Yeah.
And then, you could just, Is that on the distant horizon? I mean, like, when you're like the next Elon Musk and you're like 60?
So my friends at Skynet are preventing me from giving a direct answer to said question. But I think, like, yes, if we had the access to that kind of technology, that's one of my visions is, again, if primarily we're using it as an exercise tool, having people cycle through different exercises. So, okay, make the ball. Now make a baseball bat.
Yeah.
Now, like, start off with something simple and then eventually build up to something complicated, like a statue or something crazy along those lines. That is a with. Once we ascend and the robot overloads take over and nanorobots become viable technology, yes. Or even, because we've thought about this too. And bringing in some previous work that I've done, I have worked in VR and AR, and I've being able to link those thoughts and then have it created in a virtual environment. That's the next level.
That's what I was literally about to ask. I was going to say, forget having it happen in the physical world. What if you could just imagine square, and get rid of the physical pieces moving and instead just digital? That's where it's at, man.
And so luckily, I have experience with virtual and augmented reality, and integrating all that in it's technically feasible. It's an R&D project that we would like to pursue. And I know it's doable. But right now at the moment, we're really focusing on keeping things simple, generating the basic revenue, getting the interest, and then being able to scale up. Because if we're working primarily with students at this point, it's hard to get 30 students strapped into a VR headset because you need computers and headsets and the equipment costs. But that's our vision. Like, we want to get to a point where especially when working with schools, we can just say, okay, we'll bring all the equipment, and we come in, offload all the equipment, let the kids use it, and then ship it back out.
So how are you going to eventually turn it into like money? How are you going to butter your crust with it? And that's just like, I'm coming from like, think of like all the companies I form, and it's like, it's like dad. It's like, that's great. How are you going to pay rent with it? And it's like, that's sort of what we were talking about earlier. It's like criticism. Some of it's malicious, some of it's just real. And it's,
like
dude,
that's a real question. And it's a real question, and it's one that needs to be asked.
Well, I was going to say, like, the podcast, I love doing this. I wouldn't be doing this if there wasn't a point where I'm like, this can pay for rent and I can get my own health insurance. Like, it's great. But at a certain point, the idyllic, it meets reality. At some point, the dreaming balloon has to get anchored into the ground and go, you're still here on Earth. You eat food, you drink water, you have a car that's filled with gasoline. You have to have health insurance and auto insurance. You got to turn the lights on. You got to have a bed. Like, and I know that I can get this podcast to a point where I can get monetized and I can make revenue. I love doing it, but the reality is like, there has to be you got to be real about it. How's it gonna earn your crust, butter your bread? Yeah. How is this? What's the say? How you gonna sell soap?
So our vision, specifically my vision for the company, is that the revenue comes in different phases. Right now at the startup phase, like I mentioned earlier, we're having a lot of success with the science outreach, and specifically the STEM nonprofit organizations. Mm-hmm. And what happens is if they see us and they want us to come, we charge for a quick 2-hour demo. And usually they like the demo. So then we go into contract with them for a 6-session program / curriculum, which shows the science behind how the technology works. So we spend sessions covering the mechanical design of the robots. We talk about the electrical aspects. We go into the coding with them. And again, it's more with those contracts so far, we've actually, how much have we negotiated?
You don't need to share that. That's private. You can if you want. You can if you want. I don't give a shit. Just for you, don't feel obligated. That's
okay. Yeah. And again, I'm in pitch mode because when we were pitching this, I had to say we generated.
No, you don't need to share that.
These specific numbers.
Yeah, no, that's private information. You don't need to be sharing that with people. Feel free to. I don't give a fuck. Just for you. Don't feel obligated.
Yeah, so we've actually we've gone under contract, and we're on contract for revenue, and so that's how we initially make our money. And then what we plan to do is take the funding from that, and then also, because we're partnering with a lot of local organizations, there are bigger programs that are looking to either help us or invest in us, and so we have interest from that perspective. And so with that phase of funding, we're going to start rolling into the more clinical research. And if we get the data, and my hypothesis is that this technology will have some kind of clinical benefit. And if we get the data that backs that up, I mean, like I mentioned earlier, we've opened Pandora's box. Now we can do clinical grade, and like that comes with some serious revenue.
Yeah, that's the big money.
But even so, if the clinical, for whatever reason, if that doesn't work out, we still have something great with just the marketing as an exercise tool, and then targeting STEM programs specifically. We can make, I mean, it won't be tons of money, but it's still enough to turn itself into a viable business over time.
Yeah.
And I was very surprised because people, and of course, like I never really done this before, but people would.
Sorry, yeah, I've dehydrated myself all day, so I want to be peeing nonstop during the podcast. But I just realized I was starting to get foggy. I was like, I need some water. So I just
no worries, man. Yeah. But we'll never, or not never, but never say never. Even if it's not a lot of money, it's pretty viable. And I was really surprised when we came up with a pricing structure, and people said, "Hey, how much does it cost?" We showed them our rates, and the response was, "Yeah, sure. When do you want the check?" And I was like, "Wait, what?"
Really? Yeah,
so we're in the process of growing now, but for where we are, I think it can, and I think it is turning itself into something that's sustainable.
Yeah, that is, to me, it's almost like alchemy, like to do something you love and turn it into revenue. Because I've been, like I said, got into med school 2013. It's been over 7 years that I've been fucking with just my own things, whether it's comedy, whether it's video editing, whether it's graphic design, whether it's writing, whether it's making clothes, whether it's whatever. Now the podcast, like all things I've loved. Some of them have become successful, but like you get to the point where it's like the event horizon, where it's like, okay, now how do you flip it into how do you make it a real thing? Because up until now, it's like, sure, it's great. It's like my subreddit, Fun or History. That's fun. That's awesome. But, you know, I'm 29 years old living at home. I got to get money for rent. You know, I got to get out of here for my own sanity. There comes a point where it's like, how do you convert it into the real world? And to me, that is a form of like alchemy. You're turning lead into gold, and that's why I'm so interested. But yeah, so when I was asking how can you turn the company into revenue, that wasn't like how's it real to me. I was just like, how does it happen? Like when I have people on that like, yeah, I want to be a photographer, and I turned it into like my own company, and now that's how I bought my home. To me, I'm like, you're a goddamn fucking wizard. Like that is wizardry. Yeah. You are Gandalf. You fucking waved your wand and it's real. So that's what's just so insane, is like, it's insane enough that you're building telepathic robots, but to me it's like that you can get like a contract. To me, I'm like, that is black magic. Like, I think it's more impressive to earn $50,000 a year doing something you truly love than it is to earn $500,000 a year doing like a beaten path job.
Right.
I think it's black magic, and I think it's wonderful. Like,
and so, like, interestingly enough, what I've realized is that you make money by having something that somebody else wants, and not just that, but something that they assign value to. And so in this stage of our development as an organization, we're finding, again, with the whole showing the magic of science, people want that, and that's valuable to them. It's valuable to their kids, and so people are ultimately willing to pay. Prior to forming the company, I would demo these robots off just on the side here and there, and I got to the point where somebody asked me, and I said, "Hey, here's my price," and again, they were like, "Yeah, sure." And then I came in, did my thing. It was awesome. They they seemed super excited. I got to shake hands, take pictures, and that was that. So it's creating that value by tapping into somebody's like wants or needs. Mostly, and surprisingly, I think I would be willing to argue that you make more by tapping into their wants almost, because needs are logical. Like, I need food, I need water, I need shelter. But wants are like, well,
yeah,
I really want this new video game. I'm not going to die if I don't have it. And it's like, only $20.
Yeah,
so
I want it. Yeah.
And so that's what we're in this stage of our development really focusing on. And now overall, like over time, we're hoping to break into the needs again. Like when we start getting into the therapy range or the therapy area, if that pans out, because one thing, so have you ever heard of like the Fire Festival?
Yeah. Is that the one where all those people got like gypped?
Yeah. And so one thing I love that documentary. We just watched both of them, the Netflix and the Hulu one. And one thing that reminds me as somebody who owns a company is that, hey, I can't overpromise things. So I'm not trying to commit fraud. The more honest and straightforward I am to you, the more you trust me and the more we're able to do business. And so with that, I'm very hesitant to say, oh, well, this is a therapy tool, because I don't have the data. And when I say I mean we as an organization don't have the data to back that up. And so before that, I can only tell you what it is, and I'm trying to be honest. Side note, when I was pitching this at a competition, one person said, well, why aren't you pitching this as a therapy tool? And I'm like, well, I thought about that, but that statement's not accurate. So I'm not going to pitch something that I don't 100% know to be true. So with that, the point that I was trying to make is that, again, if we're very feeling. And so the better you feel around me, if I tell you that, hey, I want to help your students and this is my really passionate way of helping your students, you can feel that and perceive that, and you'll feel comfortable and want to do business with me.
Yeah. It's like every guest I have on, I always make sure like if I have a podcast tomorrow, like I have to like turn off the video games and like put my phone down at a certain point, because I need to get to bed by a certain point, because I need to get 8 hours of sleep. I'm a little bitch. I need those 8 hours or I'm not going to be focused. My patience always wears thin. Like I get anxious, I get depressed. I'm not firing at 100%, and that's not fair to the person that's giving me time of their day and giving me content to put up. I know I have to exercise beforehand, and I can't just go through the motions. I know I have to push it, because when I push it, I get a certain clarity for the rest of the day, where it's literally like oxygenation of like my brain cells. Like, so I know I have to do that. I have to meditate. Like I have that's how I clear my mind. Like for me, it doesn't matter that it's a podcast and I'm not meeting the person in reality. For me, it's like I gotta feel like comb my hair, brush my teeth, like shave, like put on cologne, deodorant. For me, it's like I gotta like clear the desk, like make sure everything is clean, make sure everything is right. Even like I said earlier, make sure the screen's clean. They can't see it, but to me, it's like I need to bring myself and give it my like 100%.
Right.
And it doesn't matter if right now the guest is just my buddy Aaron versus Elon Musk. It's like I need to treat everyone like that now, so when I do get that opportunity to have on, fucking Bill Gates, it's not a show I have to put on. It's just like, this is how I treat everyone.
Right.
And I want to learn that now. Yeah.
And so you practice how you play, and because one thing that people are seeking, especially in this age, more than anything else, is a sense of authenticity.
Yeah.
And so the brands that are successful, the businesses that are successful, have some perceived
trust,
authenticity to. Yeah, there's a trust. It's you can't pay for that. No amount of fancy buzzwords or graphs is going to give you that. That comes from personal connection. And so, damn, I'm rambling. I know I am. I'm trying to spin this back into
doesn't matter, dude.
But again,
you said pitching as a therapy tool.
Pitching as a therapy tool is what pitching as a therapy tool is what we're aspiring for, but right now pitching as a brain exercise tool is what we can 100% validate. We can say, yes, it's like if I sell you a dumbbell, I don't have to prove to you that the dumbbell works. You use it yourself and you figure it out. So same thing right now, but even so, like, that's for a formal pitch. Just doing the science outreach is giving us what we need at this stage. It's giving us interest, it's giving us contracts, it's giving us revenue. And so then that buys us time to develop to our next goal, to actually validate the science behind what we're doing. So we have a hypothesis, and we're in the process of seeing if that really holds, which in my opinion comes from the fact that, again, my friends who are doctors are messaging me and saying, hey, this might be something.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, let's figure it out.
Yeah. So what do you see, like Elon's first company was Zip2 and then PayPal? But he even said early on he was getting that. He was building revenue so that he could go on to the next thing and the next thing. He was just stacking his chips and going to bigger and bigger poker tables because he knew ultimately he wanted to do space, but he had to start small. What is like once you've gotten rid of, like, where you've gotten past, or you've achieved all right, now we have contracts, now we got X number of employees, we got this reputation, it's been 20 years. Once you sort of take care of that stuff, sort of like, okay, once I get this to where I can get an apartment, like, right? And then it's like, then I can start looking at, like, where do I want to take this? Because it's less of, like, survival needs, and then it starts to turn to, like, passion. But you're not too worried about passion. You're like, I just got to get the fuck out of my parents' house. Where are you, once this is taken off, there's no longer the existential questioning, fuck, should I have gone to med school? It's like, you're fine, you have an equal salary to that you would have a doctor, absolutely fun. It's a reputable company, it's set. You're like, I know this thing can work, even if it does tank. I know I'm good. Like, this isn't the end of the world. Why don't you get all those? Isn't that like some sort of pyramid? Isn't that called, like, it's like the pyramid of, like, need or something?
Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Yeah. So
once you get to, like, the second or third tier, where are you taking this? What sparks you? What's the Not like, what's a good answer? Like, well, I would like to do this. No, like, what's the fucking thing that I know that you're scribbling somewhere in a notebook? You're like, by the year 2040, we're going to be building fucking pyramids on Pluto. Like, what's the thing that gets you going? Like, is it military applications? Is it just the best VR ever? Is it, blow Xbox out of the water? Or is that something that you're holding close to your chest?
Okay, so one thing that I was thinking when forming this is what innate illogical desire could all of this satisfy? And I thought about when I was sitting in my apartment, dicking around, trying to build a robot that I could drive with my brain. Why was I doing it? Because I wanted to be a fucking superhero.
Fuck yeah.
So that's kind of my ultimate goal. At that point, I'm figuring out every way that I can possibly figure out to give myself superpowers. So maybe
you're going to be fucking Iron Man.
Fucking Iron Man, yeah. That I'm building my suit. Like, that is my vision. And so that's my personal, like, if we have like a ridiculous R&D budget, I'm like, okay, so let's do flying stuff.
Yeah.
Now. Like, let's make ourselves fly. Let's be able to okay, I can move a robot, but what if I could lift objects or control them? Have you ever played Dead Space?
No, I've heard of it though.
okay, there's like a kinesis module where you can grab stuff, and it's like it's an EM field of some kind. Like,
oh well, Just Cause has that. They have mechs. Yeah, you can like pick up shit and literally move it, and like you can pick up buses but yeah, you can even use it to like build to get higher onto stuff. Yeah.
And so like again, it's how do I continue to make us superheroes? Like,
yes,
that's the ultimate. Like that's the going from Zip2 to SpaceX to Neuralink. That's when you start really getting into the, all right, the lid's off. Let's see what we can make.
Let's burn this motherfucker down kind of thing. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, think about it if you had like a fleet of Iron Man suits for like firefighters. Fuck ladders. Fuck going upstairs that might be on fire. What if these guys just scan the building up and down? They're the people and they're just bursting through brick walls in Iron Man suits, grabbing people, putting them in a suit, pulling them out. Like, you could just do or anything like that. Like, Dad, there's like dude, I did an episode with a guy that's 3D printing a full Iron Man suit.
Oh, that's awesome.
I gotta put you two together. That would be, dude. He's got something where his fucking lid flips down. And he's got the lights come on. He's got the beams.
Oh, I thought about building that before. I need to holler at him. Like,
dude, absolutely, dude. I'll give you his fucking information. He's a goddamn mad. He's the other Tony Stark I know. You're the other one. It's you two. And I'm just like, dude, fucking, you're building the robots. This guy's 3D printing this fully operational. That look, dude, it's like Marvel quality. Dude, it's not. Literally, he can pull out the thing and the lights come on and flips the lid and just.
That's awesome.
It's not some fucking amateur bullshit like, hey, I 3D printed this and it kind of looks cool, but it kind of looks like something that your kid made in kindergarten. No. This motherfucker, like, if you didn't know it, you'd think he's like contracted by Marvel. Like, oh yeah, no, I make special effects. Yeah, I need to put you in touch with him, man.
Yeah. Oh, and then, dude, I was also thinking too, another like, where does this go? Gundam.
Yeah. Fuck yes. Like, or for me, more of Pacific Rim, like just fucking big fucking robots. Yeah, man. Goddamn right. And none of that. Did you ever see the Pacific Rims?
Yes, man. Yeah, I saw. There's more. I don't know if there's more than one. I saw the first one.
There's two. The first one's the best. Second one's kind of whatever. But the first one is like, none of that drift bullshit where you have to have two people controlling it. Fuck that plot hole. I hate that. If you could just say, dude, imagine if you could control a fucking 300-foot tall robot. Like, that's some insane shit, man. That is some insane shit.
But and so for me, like, don't get me wrong, I love the telepathic robot part, but I also, like, for me, it's the telepathic robot can be a part of it, but I gotta be in that thing. Like, if I'm flying around, I gotta be pulling like 3 Gs.
I don't want to be on the ground. I want to be in the fucking suit.
Yeah, like, because that's the thrill. Like, that's the Iron Man thrill. It's do you want to take off and fly and do all this other stuff? But that's ultimately, I would have to say, if money and resources were not an issue, that's where I would take it.
Iron Man.
And then, of course, too, like, I really mean this when I say it. Like, I do believe in the social aspects of the technology. And so one thing that me and my partners were all interested in is becoming like that group of rich VCs who just, like, sees a young company struggling and they're doing something really awesome and life-changing and just being like, here's $1 million, like, don't even pay us back.
Dude, that's what I want to do one day, man. I want to fucking make bank, and I literally just want to find cool shit. I want to find guys on the hero's journey and just be like, not even like not even like, I don't want to hand them success, but like the tools for success. Like, for you, it'd be like, I would give you like the super advanced headsets. I'd be like, I'm not doing anything else for you. But I'd be like, fucking, figure it out. Like, see, like,
here's a shield, here's a sword. Yeah. It's freaking Excalibur. It's the best sword on the market. Make it work.
It's just like this. You see someone putting up like dope music. It'd be like, I'd buy them like a MacBook and like some like mixing stuff, and I'll be like, go ham. Yeah. No, dude, I'm with you on that. That's what I want to do. I want to literally just find these little sprouts of knowledge and innovation that are growing up and just go sprinkle a little life force on them.
Yeah, and then, like, too, so I've been pretty fortunate in that I grew up in a place where, you know, my parents were there, they were invested in my education, they sent me to private school, I went to college, but I know a lot of people don't have that. And so even if it's there's all kinds of little things that I'm thinking, like when I see a school that's struggling, just being able to be like, man, if I had enough bank, I could literally give them the best infrastructure. So like what LeBron did with his I Promise school, or even now, like thinking as like, okay, if I had a big company and there's a worldwide pandemic, I want to be able to say, you know what, guys, we're shutting everything down for 2 weeks. Everybody's getting paid. Go home, be safe.
Yeah. And, or not only that, be like Tesla or Ford. Be like, we have the fucking extra to be like, whoever wants to come, it's voluntary. But hey, we're switching up operations and now we're producing ventilators. Like,
right.
I get what you mean. Yeah, send everyone home. Here's pay. Don't worry about it. Take care of your families. I want to be able to do that. I also want to be able to, like, how can I leave my thumbprint? Be like, how can I push back? Instead of just sitting and waiting for it to pass, be like, what can I do? What can I, you know, do I own a pharmaceutical company? I got the fucking machinery. Like, here, you got the cure. We can mass produce it. Like, we can switch our assembly lines. Like, yeah, just be able to fucking, really just be able to, like, push back on the world and like leave a print, and not in some sort of like, you know, I want to crush the world, I want to bend it to my will, not some Thanos shit. No, not some megalomaniacal Lex Luthor shit. No, but just like to not be so like to not be like a victim. Be like, this thing's coming now, like I'm gonna use my resources and my like team of fucking super scientists and just be like, let's go like flex nuts and fix this thing. Like,
right, yeah. And I think like that really is something that matters, is that ability to just, because I'm losing train of my thoughts. I'm sorry. I'm thinking like 8 things at once, but for me, like I generally am a person where it's like, look, I'm a squirrel trying to get my nut in this world, and if I can help you get yours, then cool. Like, so for me, like, you know, when I see students, they're coming from hard backgrounds, they don't really have a lot, just to be able to give them something, to give them a fighting chance to be what they want to be, like that's near and dear to my heart, because there's so many people who have given me a lot to be what I want to be, and so that's something that I feel like needs to be shared. Then too.
No, keep going.
No, you're good.
I was gonna
go
say,
for
well, like you, I mean, I have 2 parents that are still together, that are, you know, I got to go to private school my whole life. You know, it's we were never handed a blank check, but we were never wanting. It was, you want to go do this extracurricular program, we're gonna go do it. You want to, like, you know, you want to build a podcast, like, all right, the upper room's yours. You know, here's, you know, you can have all this, create it. There are so many people where it's like, it's one thing if you're just like told you're stupid. It's one thing to provide the emotional support, but it's like some people, it's like they don't even have. It's like you don't have the opportunity to do it. Like, I can't sit down and do it because I got to go fucking work at McDonald's all night, right?
Right, yeah.
And it's, a lot of people just need a little bit of just some breathing room.
Right, yeah.
And how many Elons are out there right now who don't have 2 seconds of their own time a day to start fucking building shit because they got to get the next groceries, or they got to fucking work the next shift. I want, like, how many super geniuses are just preoccupied. They can't do the thing because they got shit to do. Like, that's all I got.
And like, that's one thing too that I'm starting to realize as I get older, is these people that you look up to, like that. I mean, part of it is they really could, like, that dude that you saw at the grocery store, if he was given the right amount of resources and he was in the right place at the right time, that could be Elon Musk. Like, so there is the delineation between those who are up there and those who are not. There isn't much difference. It's just experiences and who had access to what, but we all have the potential to be somebody.
Yeah.
And I want to at least give people a fighting chance to be the best versions of themselves.
Yeah.
Like, now granted, not everyone, like, to be real, I don't think everybody will, just because that's not the way those things work. But you just at least want to give people a fighting chance, you know?
Yeah. It's like not everyone, just because you took the leap of faith and went on the hero's journey, it doesn't mean you're going to make it.
Right.
But you do have to take the leap of faith. It's the same thing. Like, no, not everyone given the resources are going to do it. It's just, that's just, if everyone's special, then no one's special. It's just, that's the nature of reality. You cannot be that superhero if everyone is. It's just, so there will always be people that just go farther. But, like, I want the reason for people to not become that superhero. I want it to be because they gave up or they decided they didn't like it. I don't want it to be because they never got the chance to try. Like,
right, exactly.
It's like, I want you to be able to take the leap. Like, it sounds bad. Like, if you fail, like, I want you to fail because it was your fault. I don't want you to fail because of some shit life handed to you. I want to put all the tools in front of you, and if you fail, that's on you, bro. But I don't want there to be like, well, I had to raise my kid's sister or something, right? You know, I want everyone to have the opportunity. And if you don't become Elon Musk, well, then it's just like, all right, dude, sucks to suck. You know, the vast majority of us will not be Elon Musk. But yeah, I want people to have the chance to try. Like, one thing I want to do, man, is like I want to build a medical school for the University of Georgia, because I had so many friends at UGA who went on to get into med school, but were like first generation African immigrants, first generation South Korean immigrants, and it was like they got into med school by like the skin of their teeth, but like they were working all the time. They didn't have it wasn't even that they didn't have the dedication to study for organic chemistry all night. It's like they didn't have the time. They had to go work at the laundromat, and it was like, that's like, it's something I want to do. It's like, I want to build something that's like free tuition, and it's like, it would just be a GPA. It doesn't care. I don't care how you get the GPA. If you get it, you can go for free. But it's shit like that. Like, I want the reason for people to fail to be entirely on like their own merits, you know? Like, I don't want you to, like, feel free to walk across like the high rope. There's a cushion at the bottom. If you fall, you fall. I don't want anyone to break their leg. Not everyone's going to make it across. I don't want anyone to break their fucking leg, right? That's not a fun.
Right, yeah.
I don't think there's any inherent value in that. Like, struggle is good, but past a certain point, struggle is just struggle, and there's nothing valuable about it. It's just torture.
Exactly. So that's my Bruce Wayne, Tony Stark, ridiculous levels of, I just have money and resources and I can do whatever the hell I want. So this is what I'm doing.
Dude, that's what I want to do, man. You got to aspire to it. It's we'll wrap this up. But one thing I always think of is there's some quote that's like, if your dreams don't scare you, then they're not big enough.
Exactly.
It's not enough that they excite you. The idea of like getting a podcast to pay for an apartment, to me, that excites me. I'm like, what scares me? I'm like, well, shit, what scares me is like, what if I balled out? What if I was able to like influence the industries I want to, like, you know, space travel, mental health care. That's when I'm like, whoa, I don't know. I could pull off the podcast. I don't know if I could pull off some Tony Stark shit. Well, I'm like, well, shit, if it doesn't scare me. So that's where I try to put my goals now. I'm like, if it doesn't it doesn't scare me, like, you don't want an easy goal. You don't even just want a goal that excites you. It's got to scare you.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not worthy. That's what you got to find something, you go, I'm not worthy of that, and then go for that.
Yep.
Like, you can't
it's your moonshot, man. Like, a lot of people were looking up and they were like, that's far away, but you don't get it unless you need that extra kick of this could be really bad, and like, or not even really bad, it's just, this is scary, I don't know what this is, but it could be great. And so because of that, like, that's what makes you pursue it.
It's gotta scare the shit out of you. It's gotta scare the fucking shit out of you, because goddamn, you know, as we've talked about, as insane as our journeys have been, God damn, if there's ever a boring day,
No.
good or bad, it's always a fucking roller coaster. You know, it's. I mean, Jesus Christ, dude. It's like yesterday, just my own like mental like anxiety meltdown. I was like, okay, tomorrow's a new day. Woke up today, I'm like, let's go get it, another day. And it's just like, but goddamn, it's like the one thing I can say is like, they're not boring, they're insane. it's some days they're not boring because they're bad. Some days they're not boring because they're great. But goddamn, they're never. Oh, gonna go do the same thing. It's yeah. But yeah, man. Let's definitely schedule another one. That was we just went for 2 hours and 50 minutes. So that was a fucking long one, man. But yeah, I'm sorry we didn't touch on robots till like 2 hours in. You and I went balls deep on philosophy.
Look, man, you run the show. I'm just happy to be on it. So your call.
I don't give a fuck, man. We can talk about whatever. Let's definitely do another one though, man.
Yeah, definitely.
Let's fuck yeah, bro. Aaron Shepard, goddamn mad scientist. I appreciate it, bro. Do you guys have a website or something that I can plug? That I can put? I'll put in the top comment.
So our website is under construction.
I don't give a shit, dude. I was just gonna say, let me know, and so I can like pin it as a comment or something.
Yeah, I'll pin it. I'll post it to you. Yeah. I'll share it with you. It's under construction.
It doesn't matter. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah, I don't think people really care.
I just want something to plug. If you don't have it, I don't give a shit. But
no, I got you, dude.
Yeah.
But dude, it's crazy. Because we got the website up, we're just getting things rolling for the summer. Unfortunately, Corona's wrecking our plans some. But hey, we still
roll with the punches.
There's a contract that we definitely have, and there's some other things in the works. Somebody who was connected to the Ministry of Education in Dubai was like, "Hey, this is really cool. Do you want to come to Dubai?" I was like.
Hey. Dubai money. That's fucking.
I know. Woo. And so we'll just see. But I'm trying to take it day by day. We're also doing a couple little things. I know it sounds jumbly, but that's how it is when you start out. We're doing because we do a little consulting for small businesses because we're all three engineers. We generally can make things and. We're writing an app for one of the councilmen in the city for his district, and so we're under contract for that. And he's excited because he funds a lot of the STEM initiatives that we work with, and so he's excited to help us grow. So just trying to put in the work to get it to catch and that reaction take off.
Yeah. You gotta just keep throwing. You're in a forest. You gotta just keep throwing matches. Eventually, one of them will burn it fucking down. That's where I am. Yeah, that's where I am right now, man. It's 7 years in. It's like I'm still flicking matches. I'm like, one of them's gonna catch some like pine needles, and then it's just gonna be. But yeah, the only way you can know is if you keep flicking matches. Aaron Shepard and Tommy Harrigan flicking matches and burning down forests. You can quote it. Yeah, you can't use that in court. All right, brother. I'll text you after this. Let's definitely set up another one.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, so school is canceled. Well, not canceled, but it's all online. So my schedule is relatively free. I know around late April, early May is finals time, but then afterwards I have a solid month before anything really takes off. So. All right.
Well, yeah, dude, you can also come on sooner than that if you want. You don't need to wait that long. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
We can chill. I've had on people back to back, man. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, man, don't worry. Let me see. I know just scheduling wise, things are kind of hectic.
Yeah. No, dude, we'll figure it out. It out. All right, man. Stay safe. Fuck yeah, my brain's kind of fried. I don't really have anything else to say. But
dude, I'm so hungry right now.
Dude, I'm starving. I need some blood sugar. I'm starting to get foggy. Yeah. All right, man. Let's end it while we're ahead. All right, dude. Peace.
All right, peace, man.